With the Butt Kicker Gamer 2, what you see and what you hear is what you feel. Butt Kicker. The future is feeling.
It was a very unique opener last week for the PRL Wednesday Night NASCAR Series. We kicked off the season at an FIA Grade 1 road course where Brett Karakoff held off his basement buddy Brendan Shatley to win on debut, and it was the tire wizard Abner Acosta who gapped the field in the Xfinity Coda. But this week, it's back to normalcy, and it's back to the old oval grind for the rest of the season. Welcome to Round 2 in 2023 Season 2 of the PRL NASCAR Truck Series, live from the virtual Texas Motor Speedway. And later on, it'll be Round 2 of the PRL NASCAR Xfinity Series, live from the virtual Richmond Raceway. But for now, my name is Joey Tebben. With me in the booth is Arjuna Kankapati, and behind the scenes is Arjuna Kankapati. How about that? I'm seeing double here in the booth tonight. But Arjuna, it is a split schedule this week. The trucks are sent off in the real world to Texas Motor Speedway to be paired with IndyCar. Meanwhile, the Xfinity Series travels over to Richmond. But this is the start of the oval season. It's our first intermediate of the season, and we are on the oval grind for the next 2 months.
Let's be honest, you and I are probably a little bit more excited when it comes to this weekend about the fact that after almost a month off, the Indy cars are back in action. But Texas Motor Speedway is an interesting one, although plenty will claim it's been stained by the legacy of the stain. You see what I did there.
Yeah, it's been stained literally and figuratively. Turns 1 and 2, they may be about a mile wide. How much of that can you actually use as a racing surface? That's going to be an answer that we'll get an answer to a little bit later. But the point standings, pretty straightforward. They are basically the race results from COTA last week with a little bit of mishing and matching, if those are words, from the bonus points in the PRL. But it's BC up top. Brett Karakoff, Brendan Shatley, Patrick Cowgill desperately searching for his first win in this series this season. Kevin McGarvey, Austin Hunter, Oliver Goff, Dalton Geyer, Baron Hilton on his return, and Dallas Sullivan and Pierre-Luc Ryu round out the top 10 here. But like I said, that's basically the top 10 from the COTA race. The Teams Championship is a little bit more interesting because we do have quite the battle at the top. Loaded Dice Racing, who won the Teams Championship last season, are in 4th place right now, behind Regan Bogue Motorsports and behind both Whataback teams. So that's going to be a very, very interesting teams battle to watch over the course of the season. Could be even closer than the Drivers' Championship. We'll have to wait and see how everything shakes out there. Qualifying has just ticked over at Texas Motor Speedway, but before we can get into that, we have to thank all the people who make all of this possible here on RaceSpotTV, starting with Advanced Sim Racing. Owned and operated by passionate sim racers, Advanced Sim Racing designs and builds the sturdiest and most durable aluminum profile racing simulation cockpits available in the market today. All PRL members also get a 5% discount on ASR products using the Precision 5 coupon code. Racebox offers mid and high-end button boxes for sim racing enthusiasts, from the casual gamer up to the most meticulous sim racing driver. Competitively priced and carefully handcrafted, their button boxes are an enjoyable addition to any sim racing setup. Visit RaceboxSimRacing.com and also get a 5% discount, also using the Precision 5 coupon code. This coverage is also brought to you by the Butt Kicker. Butt Kicker products provide an incredible immersion and realism to every game. Feel every nuance and truly put yourself in the driver's seat with the Butt Kicker. And Mechasim Hardware is a small company from the Czech Republic, and their goal is to produce high-quality sim racing hardware. If you're looking for a high-end pedal set, handbrake, or sequential shifter, visit Mechasim Hardware's eShop right now to get you up to speed and check them out. And in their second season with us, it's Moradness. Moradness is a performance lifestyle brand motivated by motorsport and founded by professional race car driver Daniel Morad. For more information, visit moradness.com. And last but not least, NinjaTrader. Better futures start now. Trade the world's future markets with NinjaTrader and visit ninjatrader.com to get access to unlimited free trade simulation. They've got a new ad read for this season. There's no more tracking our performance. You can still track your performance on NinjaTrader, and we still can track our performance on track anyway here. Currently on pole, it is who else but Chris Justice leading the pace in qualifying. A little bit different from practice. We saw a lot of drafting work with some drivers in qualifying. It was Dominic Brodeur in third, and I believe it was Matthew Karakoff topping the timesheets in practice. But right now, we wait for a few other drivers to get out there, and we take a look at the grid of Zooms. It is a beautiful display here. Brendan Chatley up in the top left there in his basement. Well, not anymore. We've lost him. That's Corey Precker, I believe, up in the top left now. You'll be seeing him in the Xfinity series a little bit later. That's Patrick Cowgill in the middle on the top, kind of hunched over his wheel. It's last week's winner, Brett Karakoff, in the middle on the left there, next to Chris Justice, and a whole host of others. We're going to see their faces quite a bit tonight and quite a bit this season. We haven't seen Steve Loving's face on the Zoom, but we saw a lot of him last week, and there he goes to P2.
I'm glad that we jumped back onto the track to actually catch that, because Loving now starting on the outside of the front row. But look at the margin that Chris Justice has to the rest of the field. 600ths back to second, 1,000th behind is then third, 1,000th behind is then fourth. I mean, it's incredible. Justice has really found something in this qualifying session.
Tale of Chris Justice last season was a driver who has a lot of raw pace, a lot of short-run speed, really struggled with the tires over the course of the run, though. So we'll see if he can keep that pace up over the course of the race. Patrick Cowgill crosses the line, lets out a breath. He was definitely holding it for that entire run. It's only going to be P10 for Mr. Patrick Cowgill. Still winless, unfortunately, in the PRL. And he told me before this season, his only goal this season, other than obviously trying to win the championship, is finally getting that win under his belt.
I mean, you got to set your expectations and your stalls out, right, and have some sort of target to hit. I always set my expectations lower. I try not to crash out of races. I'm glad drivers have more ambition than I did, though, because I was usually quite crashy.
Yeah, in my stint in the PRL, I did not succeed at the not crashing mission. Somebody who unfortunately has also not succeeded in the not crashing mission, Colton Easterday, is here just trying to come back from a hellish season last season in the trucks. Hasn't really gone his way in his production car challenge exploits in the PRL this season either. Wasn't a great qualifying run for him. I think he might have gotten a little bit loose on that run. Currently 33rd place, taking the gloves off for a little bit of a break. And hopefully Colton Easterday's luck on the intermediates turns around. I don't want to see him in the fence again like at Charlotte.
Luck at an intermediate, though, is so hard to come by. You try instead of troubling, you just kind of hope for the best. And with qualifying in the books, drivers now have to switch focuses, right, from being on the track by themselves to now racing in a pack at a track where it's high speeds, high drama, and in these trucks especially, tie wear not really a factor until we get later into the run.
Yes, we've not left Texas. We've just moved a little bit to the west, I believe, from Austin to Fort Worth, or a little bit to the east. I need to study my Texas geography. What I do not need to study is Chris Justice on the pole position. Those are the practice times there, I believe, but I will read you the correct grid. Chris Justice starts from the pole alongside Steve Loving. There it is. And Mr. Alan Dice starts on row number 2 alongside the first of the Karakoffs. It's Brett Karakoff, our defending winner from last week. Kevin McGarvey for Whataback headlines row number 3 alongside our second place championship finisher last season, Dallas Sullivan. Brendan Chatley finished second last week, starts 7th this week, starting alongside the second of the 2 Karakoffs, Matthew Karakoff. Hayden Palumbo makes a late season debut here alongside Patrick Cowgill, and it's Garrett Austin and Jeremy Bailey on row number 6. Unlucky 13th went to Pierre-Luc Ryu alongside CM Punk Pennington. Kevin Jobin starts alongside Zach Panzarella. Baron Hilton in his return season makes up row number 9 with Zachary Smith in the 420. Then number 19, Nicholas Saint-Germain, our auctioneer, starts alongside the lead Goff, Robert Goff. Dominic Brodeur, very quick in practice, only 21st in qualifying, alongside Ryan Traver. Thomas Brendel and Oliver Goff make up row number 12. Then you have to go all the way back to 25th to find Nicholas Starling alongside Paul Crumry. Tom Amasi starts alongside Kyle Strykars, making his season debut. Dylan Schmidt is 29th, and the home driver, Austin Hunter, from just down the road in the Houston area, starts 30th, ahead of another Houston area driver. Same last name, not related though. Stacy Hunter starts 31st. Dalton Geyer could not get much higher than 32nd. Colton Easterday and Richard Pruitt make up row number 17, and it is a blockbuster 35 truck field with Curtis Norman in the unlucky number 13 at the back of it all. I'm already losing my voice from just reading that grid, Arjuna. It is a fantastically healthy grid here in the Truck Series, a little bit bigger now that we're at the first oval of the season, and it's an intermediate in this series. We always see quite a bit of craziness.
It's also the first race after, like we say, a road course that many may not have been looking forward to. It gets them out of their comfort zone. Right now, it's back into the wheelhouse. If there is going to be craziness, you've got to stay out of it because you get one drop round a season. If that was going to be your drop round back at the Circuit of the Americas, you've got to make sure you're out of trouble coming here to Texas again, I guess.
Again, we're never going to leave Texas. It always has been Texas.
Where else can we go in Texas after this?
I mean, we could go to, like, MSR Houston. We could go to some dirt tracks. There's some opportunities if iRacing wants to scan some more tracks. Houston Motorsports Park, I think that would make Austin Hunter very happy. But for now, he's going to have to make do with the Dallas-Fort Worth area. We're all set in the DFW here. The iRacing sedan pace car crawling through turns 3 and 4. And it's Chris Justice who will lead the field to green, I believe for the first time in his PRL career. I got to check my statistics here. I got to check my numbers. But I believe this is a first pole for Chris Justice, searching for his first win. Steve Loving has won before in the PRL. He's won at an intermediate for that matter. He'll be starting to the outside. And then it is our defending winner, Brett Karikoff, on row number 2. But the iRacing sedan pace car pulls off after a road course opener to the season. It's ovals all the way down for 9 more weeks. And at Texas, Chris Justice leads us to green at Texas. Double the Texas, double the fun as they fan out a little bit through that ever wide turns 1 and 2, like I mentioned. Then it turns into a funnel here down the back straight. It's clean and green all the way through the back of the field through turn 3 for the first time.
It's the great thing about Texas. Each end of the track is so unique. You're not going to see many drivers, I think, wanting to get all the way up through 1 and 2 where the stain for the majority tends to be.
Spinning through the tri-oval already. Huge contact in the back of the field. No caution's going to come out for it as everybody's still rolling. But there was one driver who got a little bit high off of turn 4, and there is the caution as they're wrecking into turn 1. Curtis Norman makes it through. Tom Amasi is involved. Baron Hilton ends up down pit road. Nicholas Saint-Germain, Zach Panzarella. It's a mess here on lap number 2.
Yeah, that was pretty clumsy overall. Took a while for the caution to come out because, like you said, they kept it rolling for a little bit of time, and now we'll just stack up behind the pace car. And you did say that the intermediates sometimes bring out the crazy. The one thing to remember is it's a timed race rather than a lap-limited race, so these drivers are going basically for 40 minutes, and therefore no overtime to worry about.
A huge cloud of smoke still occupying the airspace in turns 1 and 2. Let's take a look at what happened here. First and foremost, off of turn 4 on lap 1, a bunch of drivers just trip over each other. Panzarella, I believe, one more driver involved ending up down pit road. Pierre-Luc Ryu ends up accidentally on pit road, as does Baron Hilton. You see a little bit further ahead, that is Panzarella in the 247 who comes on the scene. He's kind of in the middle of the sandwich there, and nowhere Hilton and Ryu could go.
And then up the track, you can see they also don't slide above the white line, which is why things stayed green for a moment. But then I think the likes of Richard Pruitt and the rest decided that the caution needed to come out.
Yeah, Kyle Strykars, you saw broadside across the track there in the 07. Richard Pruitt in the 24 recovers. I think, oh dearie me. Nicholas Starling involved. The home driver, Austin Hunter, I don't think actually made any contact. So if we can get it on board with Austin Hunter, he had quite the ride there, but I don't think he made any heavy contact. We will get to see Austin. How about that? That's the bonus. That's the benefit of having a producer in the booth with you. We ride on board with Austin Hunter here. Oh. Nope, there was plenty of car-to-car contact. There was just no wall contact.
You say producer in the booth. I just say producer that listens.
Yes, that is always very helpful.
Or a commentator that also doesn't ask for silly things. So that's the other thing.
All right, give me an onboard with Matt Crafton.
I was going to say, do you want an onboard with Chris Justice through that crash?
Yes, actually, that would be great.
Yeah, because sometimes commentators ask for things, and as a producer, you're sitting there going, no.
Chris Justice will be a very happy boy, though, because, like I said, last season he had a lot of short-run speed, had a lot of qualifying speed, and just couldn't quite keep the tires under him. So if we get a ton of these short runs, that heart rate is in the healthy range right now. He's not too worried, 114. He's going to be very, very comfortable if we do have these kind of start-stop stints for the rest of the night.
So that's an actual backdrop behind him, right? Because,
yes.
Yeah, that doesn't look like a green screen. Yeah, my eyes aren't deceiving me. That's not bad. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, we always love those printed backgrounds. Austin Hunter has one as well. which we may see with his frustrated little face, because he is getting some heavy damage repaired in the pits right now. It is a little bit like a hospital on pit road right now. Tom Amasi's just been discharged. Nicholas Starling got 40 seconds of repairs. Panzarella and Schmidt, Hunter and Goff got a minute of repairs, and Baron Hilton, Richard Pruitt, and Kyle Strykars still waiting down there for those hammers on the pit crews to straighten those trucks out, get a little bit of engine strength back in, because we did wipe out a good 7 or 8 trucks there on lap 1.
Yep. See how many of them are able to work on their cars under this caution. Tom Amasi, 27.5 seconds of damage repairs last time by. So maybe not as much needed for Amasi to be able to cycle back out and keep his position. There's Brendan Chatley, who had a really fun fight last time at the Circuit of the Americas, still running up inside the top 10. Not a bad run in qualifying either.
He's going to be having deja vu, though, because look who's that in front of him in the purple truck. He's found himself behind Brett Karakoff again, so the two BC buddies, the basement buddies as I called them, they can't separate each other from each other. But the Philadelphia driver who made Dylan Coyle very, very happy last week is going to be staring at purple for a while, and the whole room is purple for Brett Karakoff now. As if it wasn't good enough last week, he's gone all disco on us.
I'm just saying, that is a basement. You got the pinball,
beautiful
you got the pool table, foosball as well. I mean, bit of everything.
And I bet there's even more if we look over to the right side where the camera isn't even showing. Who knows what kind of bounties that guy has down there?
It feels like he's going to have to set them up for next time.
I'm still waiting. I put out a request from last week because there's a lot of crazy people in this league that'll do a lot of crazy things with their cameras.
What did you ask for?
Saw Ted Lowendick last night. You see Austin Hunter doing all sorts of craziness. But I specifically asked for somebody to set up their camera and their rig outside. I've seen enough of people's rooms. I've seen enough of basements and living rooms. I want to see somebody out in the elements. And Terry Radford in the Xfinity series said he might do it. I'm hoping he delivers, but I'm thinking I might be disappointed.
I don't know if that seems like the wisest idea. I can see many issues with that. Speaking of...
Just check the forecast beforehand. You'll be fine.
There's many more issues, depending on where you are, I guess, in the US or the world. Mr. Lowendick, by the way, I filed a complaint with RaceSpot's HR department for being subjected to that background through the entirety of yesterday's GT3 broadcast.
You know, that was damaging to my eyes. I'm going to need workman's compensation.
You only had to deal with it for a few moments, Joey, as well. Imagine
it was bad
extended subjection to that. Awful stuff.
We got a similarly colored truck, though, in Alan Dice, who's made his way to the outside of the road, number 1. We only had about 1.5 laps of green flag running, but Alan Dice managed to make 2 passes in that meantime. It's still Chris Justice up front, though. It's a great jump for him, and we are back green at Texas. A little bit of a checkup in the back of the field, though. Colton Easterday, I believe, trying to make it 3 wide into turn 1. Hopefully we make it a little bit further than we did last time.
Not too many cars trying to commit up high. Single file inside the top 7 or so, but it's double file a little bit more regularly behind. And I think you'll see a couple of drivers losing out on the outside line. The longer that they stay there, the worse, the more likely a chance that they'll get freight trained. There's another green flag lap finally in the books.
Like everybody's making it through turn number 4 cleanly this time. No arguments in the back of the field. There's some arguments at the front of the field, though, because Steve Loving, who qualified on the front row, is still trying to make the top work. It is not working out for him as Chris Justice slides up high. Here comes Alan Dice to the bottom into turn 3, and Dice goes for the lead early.
Does look like you're going to be able to dice a little bit in terms of the lines that you run. And look at Justice all the way up the track and almost chased up there as well by the Stealth Black machine. I think that might have been Steve Loving. And Justice goes from the lead to now 4th position.
Kevin McGarvey picks up 2nd here. He was the driver last season who we really thought was going to be able to fight for the championship, but wasn't able to make every round, wasn't able to get that consistency going. We'll see if he can do that this season. But look at this hornet's nest for P4 now as Chris Justice falls back, maybe trying to do a little bit of tire saving. He does seem to be checking up the bottom a little bit as old Highline Steve Loving gets a little bit too high and into the wall.
A little bit closer than I think he would have wanted. Behind, you got the likes of Rio and Cowgirl also duking it out as they duck their way through the corners. Couple of green flag laps now under the belt. I wonder if we're settling into a little bit of a rhythm. We saw some of the looks on board. It's a type of track that definitely stresses you out.
I'm always stressed when it comes to these intermediates here because there's always the possibility for calamity, and nobody knows that more than the driver in the inside. In that 00, Matthew Karakoff, he was another one of those drivers last season who showed a ton of speed at places like Charlotte, Las Vegas. None of it came good, though, with technical difficulties, with being taken out in incidents. All went wrong for him as we ride on board with Robert Goff, kind of at the back of the field, looking forward at all the calamity and chaos up ahead, potentially, with the glaucoma background as Steve Loving's around on the back straight, and the caution flies once more. Steve Loving was playing with the outside walls, running high. He's played with the inside wall down the back straight.
Oh, and he was sideways before he even got to the exit of the corner and straight down into the wall. Decent job of locking it down and not taking on too much damage after that. Work our way back through turn 1 on the outside, trying to jink back into line. Now, is there going to be contact, or is he just going to pedal himself loose? It brakes by himself. Maybe just a bit too much speed.
I did a pair of C-Fix races earlier this week, Arjuna. I actually found time to do iRacing for once in a month. I had a solid run in the first one. We had a lot of cautions. I think I finished 6th or so. But what I learned is that every single time we come to Texas in this series, turns 1 and 2 seem like they're going to be way easier than they are. But it is just horrifically loose through the middle of the corner if you take just a little bit too much speed. Poor old Steve Loving learns that the hard way.
Is that just Joey complaining about the iRacing Fix setup, as we're going to see Dallas Sullivan, Brendan Chatley, Kevin Jobin, CM Pennington, Jeremy Bailey, and Dominic Brodeur all come down onto pit lane. So interesting that with 10 minutes complete in this race, drivers have decided to sacrifice some track position and fall back to the tail end of the field.
And a little bit splitty here. About 60% of the field, I'd say, stayed out there. 40% down pit road. Some drivers just going off strategy here. Alan Dice has that track position. I think he's definitely inclined to stay out here, but if you are somebody like Dallas Sullivan, who is a little bit further back than he wanted, if you're somebody like CM Pennington, who really needs to go off strategy to get a big result, I don't think you can blame anybody for going off strategy early here.
As we see blasting on past to grab the lucky dog. Now that's going to be Richard Pruitt, isn't it, in the number 24 machines. Now 2 laps down is Baron Hilton, and Carl Strykars has retired, so Hilton will be next up in queue and hoping to get a couple of cautions to cycle back to the tail end of the field.
And we do have to think fuel-wise here, because it is a 40-minute race. You can't make it through the entire race on fuel. If we have a ton of cautions, you likely can if you save, but if we do go green to the end, I think all these guys that stayed out are going to be in desperate danger of not being able to make it to the end of the race. And suddenly all those guys who just brought it down pit road, they might be the smartest people in the room.
Well, I guess this is the point from which you can make it to the end, right, Joey? At least I would hope so.
I would imagine so. With the amount of people who came, when somebody like Dallas Sullivan comes in, who can compete no matter what strategy he's on, you have to imagine he's thinking, I can make it to the end.
No, I think you're also right when you say the strength and numbers that came in, right? So clearly you can, but I don't know if these drivers at the front are maybe expecting plenty more cautions in which they'll be able to pit and then fight their way back on forward. But the problem will be that if there is only 1 or 2 more cautions and they take the opportunity to pit, they may be stuck towards the back with, like you say, some drivers being able to cycle up towards the front.
Just waiting to rack them up here. There were some pretty quick cautions in the official series. It seemed like they flew by, but we got a couple of extra laps of caution here with everybody coming down pit road, organizing the field, doing all that administrative work. We will be ready to go green here in 1.5 more miles time, or maybe about 2.25 miles time if we're being specific. I'm going to count how many drivers came in. I'm going to get my numbers exactly right here. I think it was 12. It was 12 drivers that came in. It was 22 drivers who stayed out. So that's, I'd say that's about 60-40. I think I actually did math well for once.
I would trust the commentator's math.
Maybe 66-33, something like that, but it was pretty decent here. And we are ready to re-rack here. Alan Dice will lead us to green this time. The first leader not named Chris Justice in this race. How about that? Kevin McGarvey to his outside. Then Karakov, Justice, Palumbo, other Karakov, Ryu, Cowgill, Austin, and Traver will make up the top 10 when we come to the restart here.
Did you notice that the yellow lights on the catch fencing went out as we came to 1 to go rather than when we wound to, I don't know, just interesting. Little details, iRacing's got so many of them.
Yeah, I didn't notice they go out with 1 to go. I guess that makes sense, obviously. That's kind of a signal that we'll be going racing next time around.
True.
But, my eyes aren't good enough for that. Clearly, with your eye damage from Ted Londick, you're still picking out the good backgrounds.
Well, this is also what happens when you're staring at many screens. But I'm focused on the broadcast, like you, Joey. I'm just trying to commentate from it.
Yeah, like Watsky said, we're obsessed with our tiny glowing screens here. If we take a look at Robert Goff on board a little bit later tonight, we will see the glaucoma background again. But for now, we do have some racing to do, as Ryan Kish would say. Alan Dice leads us to green, or will lead us to green here. And we'll see if we can get a little bit longer of a run going. The first run was only about a lap and a half before Calamity struck. Then Steve Loving brought out the most recent caution with a little bit of a loose moment through turns 1 and 2. Alan Dice is certainly hoping we go for a long run. Chris Justice, probably not thinking the same here, but it's been a race of attrition for the first 15 minutes. It's a race of 25 minutes to go now as Alan Dice leads us back to green. The caution lights are out, the green flag's in the air. We're going racing at Texas again. Great jump from the leader, Alan Dice, picking up a little bit of ground over Brett Karakov, who takes second, and Kevin McGarvey, who restarted on the outside, gets swallowed up by Palumbo.
A little bit of jinking further back, and then a couple of cars getting a little bit too close to the wall for comfort, but safely through the opening couple of corners. Still 3 wide behind, that's for 25th position, not such dramas towards the front.
Patrick Cowgill in the 31 there, getting aggressive on the outside. CM Pennington a little bit further back as well in the cream and purple number 44. He's one of those drivers on new tires, remember. Can he take advantage of that on the outside? Looks like he was. Ryan Traver, though, not on new tires on the outside in that very easily differentiable default paint scheme there with the highlighter green. Trying to fight off Paul Crumry on the inside. Side by side through 3. It's a little bit high for Traver.
In front, though, he's got some opportunities if the 88's going to get some contact, and now that's surely going to be the 3rd caution of the day as they slide their way through turns number 1. A car goes up and over, and more drama spinning as the yellow flag finally flies.
There's Thomas Brendel rolling down the track there. I didn't see who went to space a little bit further back, but kick it off with a little bit of a pinch point here through the quad oval. That's Paul Crumry on the inside. Garrett Austin up ahead. Crumry peeks a nose to the inside. I don't think Garrett Austin knew he was entirely there.
And then as they all try and check themselves up, was that a self-spin and a coming together into the, what do you even call it, the wall?
I think that was somebody getting lodged in the safer barrier there. I didn't see, I think it might have been Steve Loving, as if it wasn't bad enough for Steve Loving. Let's take a look. Was it him who checked up? Oh, he gets hit. He gets hit by Austin Hunter, I believe. And poor old Steve Loving.
He keeps driving after this, you know?
Nice.
Oh, as the safety car decides to absolutely murder poor Steve.
You know, that's insult to injury there, but that's a demonstration of the laws of physics there. If any of you are in college physics classes right now, get out your free body diagrams, because there was some velocity that Steve Loving got flung backwards there.
Absolutely. I'm sure there's more that we missed through that replay cycle as well.
But good old Garrett Austin, even though he got turned there through the quad oval, doesn't seem to have much damage. And here we go. It's another split pit strategy. The top 6 all stay out, but Matthew Karakov is in. Ryu is in. Travers in. Crumry, understandably, is in, as is Dalton Geyer. Now we've got 3 pit strategies in the field, as if that wasn't confusing enough.
I feel like it's unsafe to stay out from this point forward. Clearly, because we're going to get more cautions likely. All you're doing by staying out at this point is cycling yourself even further back. Maybe the call is just drivers expecting so many more others not to come down and pit that they think it's not going to be such an issue, as that is going to be Baron Hilton getting one of his 2 laps back. But interesting call. We now still are waiting for the top 10 effectively to work their way onto pit lane.
And all those drivers who pitted under that last caution, they've cycled up pretty far forward. Dallas Sullivan, the leader of all those pitters, is currently 11th. Nicholas Starling actually leads all the drivers who pitted. He was involved in the first caution, got a little bit of damage there, currently sits 8th.
He'll owe us a pit stop, though.
He will. But it's a little bit of a lasagna of pit strategies here. There's many layers.
I do wonder if maybe the amount of caution that we are seeing means that Nicholas could actually make it to the end. He's not much better off in terms of field than those he's around, but he is slightly better off.
Yeah. If he can make it to the end, I imagine the likes of Dice and Karakov and McGarvey can as well.
It's going to take more cautions, but I'm speculating here. I'm throwing things out there and hoping they come true, I guess.
Just throwing things at the wall. And speaking of wall, if you take a look at Kevin McGarvey here, I keep mentioning that Brendan Chatley is Philadelphia's own driver. That made Dylan Coyle very happy. But Kevin McGarvey is an honorary Philadelphia area resident of his own, coming from just over the river in New Jersey. It's a very Phillies-esque paint scheme there for Whataback. His home track, Wall Stadium, which we could have had on iRacing. It was scanned, it was all ready, and I believe the story is they just couldn't figure out how to make the weird pit road there work. So we never got to race at Wall Stadium, which I imagine makes Kevin McGarvey very sad because it's his home track.
It's not a bad paint scheme, to be honest. I like it.
And he'll be very happy because the Turkey Hill ice cream, the Phillies-themed Turkey Hill ice cream, Graham Slam, is back in stores. So Kevin McGarvey, I hope you're happy about that, because I am.
You know what I don't think we should be happy about?
Notice my pronunciation of Graham?
No, we'll let that slide. Notice the windshield for Karakov versus McGarvey next time we get the shot of the front. One of them's done the job, one of them has not.
And we got oh no! Kevin McGarvey, you ruined it!
Shaking my head, I'm disappointed.
Shame!
For those wondering what we're talking about, we'll wait for Karakov to show us the front of his car, I guess, as well. But there's Precision Racing League windshield banners that you can get. If you got a red one, you've got the wrong one, my friends.
They're just trying to live their real-life Craftsman Truck Series dreams.
Clearly.
Let's see, are we ready to go green again here? No, we're not. One more time around. Yes. The beautiful LEDs on the side of the track are not out just yet. I swear these cautions went way faster in the efficient. No, we are ready to go green. Brett Karakov tricked me. He was just lagging behind here. We are going to be ready to go green here in about 1 mile's time. And Brett Karakov tricked me, the tricky trickster.
The trickster did it himself. Halfway through the time, by the way, I think, or getting close to that. So with 3 cautions now in the books, do we have 3 more yet to come? I mean, the one thing that you know, Joey, is it only gets more intense out there the closer you get to the end, especially knowing there are no green-white checker overtimes for these drivers to try and fight their way through.
Well, you know, here in Texas, they do a lot of breeding in cattle, and we're going to do a lot of breeding here, because what you do know is that cautions breed cautions,
oh boy.
And that's going to be my only accent of the night here.
I thought you were about to say everything's bigger in Texas, but that was worse. Much worse.
I mean, the caution count has certainly been bigger in Texas here. This has been a little bit of a yellow fest here, but let's see. Can we get a long run going here with the yellow truck at the head of the field? Last week's winner, Brett Karakov, has cycled his way up to the front row, but being on the outside of the front row in these restarts has been a little bit of a curse here. He's going to have to try and find a way to get down to the bottom. But first and foremost, Alan Dice II leads us to our 4th green flag of the race, and we are racing once more. A little bit of a checkup at the back of the field, still clean though, as the field of 34 still running trucks files their way through turn 1. Brett Karakov still stuck on the high line there, though, as I mentioned, and that's going to allow Hayden Palumbo, rather, to try and get to 3rd.
Up the inside as they funnel their way in towards turn 3. You said 34 running trucks again. Only Kyle Strykar is a retiree. Baron Hilton now just 1 lap down and hoping for another caution to bring him back onto the leading lap. Front of the field, no major fighting. It's once again in the heart of the pack where they're going side by side.
It's one of the Goffs to the outside. That's Robert Goff, actually, with Colton Easterday to his inside. A little bit of smoke further ahead. Zach Panzarella, I think, getting a little bit loose. Curtis Norman as well. This is the Hornets' nest with drivers on 3 different ages of tires. The drivers on the newest tires are all the way at the back. They got to pass the people on 7-lap-older tires, and then they got to get to the people with 16-lap-older tires.
There's fighting all over the shop now as well. Already we've seen Brendan Chatley and Kevin Jobin get up into the top 10. There's more filtering their way on through. This is where maybe the outside line actually works, is with drivers that have a slight tyre advantage over what is only, let's be fair, Joey, 25-lap-old tires.
It's a huge drift in the background there for Robert Goff, who's just trying to hang on to these tires, but he is getting swallowed up as Matt Karakoff gets by him on the outside, on the inside rather. There's 3 wide off of turn 4 with Colton Easterday on the inside. They survive that, but there is quite the checkup back there. Some of these drivers on older tires are understandably falling back.
Yeah, absolutely. It is definitely a bit of a hard struggle to work your way through right now. Matthew Karakoff, that is, in the 00, up to 17th spot, the best of those that came down on this most recent cycle of pit stops. And meanwhile, it looks like Nicholas Starling and Chris Justice are duking it out behind, but realistically right now, 15 minutes left on the clock. Question will be for the drivers at the front, who are still doing 36.91, so only about a tenth or 2 off of what their fastest laps in the race are. When will their tires really start to struggle? Because Brendan Chatley is struggling to get up into the mix.
Chatley's stuck on the high line as Zachary Smith is down there on the bottom in that bright yellow 420 entry. The car in the wall up ahead, I believe that's Steve Loving, who's a lap down. He's going to get out of the way here and open the door for everybody, but not opening the door enough as Chatley and Justice come together. Contact through the quad oval. Chatley's in the wall, and that's going to be yet another caution on the track. Brendan Chatley gets into an argument through the quad oval. And that's it for our second place finisher from last week.
Looked like he was getting into an argument on his way back to pit lane as well there. Not sure if he had keyed up on the public radio to express his displeasure, but it's always got to be bigger in Texas, doesn't it?
Indeed it does. There are quite a few other drivers, innocent drivers involved there. I believe Zachary Smith was unfortunately involved as well. Let's take a look here. Oh, Chatley and Justice get together. That's Zachary Smith on the scene as well. I think Smith is okay. He didn't make much wall contact, but Chatley got the worst of it.
See if we can look from up above potentially as to if the 52 tries to self-clear, working through.
Oh.
Clips a bit of the grass on the inside, and I'm not sure if that's where maybe it starts the chain reaction, the Swiss cheese effect, effectively, where a contact was inevitable from there.
The Swiss cheese effect. I think that's the first time I've heard that.
I used it the wrong way as well. It's fantastic.
The holes didn't open. The holes closed. So it's reverse Swiss cheese, whatever we can call that.
So the Swiss cheese effect is actually meant to be used in air crash investigations to try and explain how there were so many, Swiss cheese has got holes everywhere, right? But it's all random.
Yeah.
So let's say you lined up different layers of Swiss cheese, right? At each step of that, there's a point where the crash either could have been totally prevented or the path could have continued, and it either goes through the hole or, let's say, for example, the part gets replaced and everything's fine. Swiss cheese, it's a thing.
I'm going to have my Wikipedia open after this. I'm gonna be reading all about the Swiss cheese effect.
If you like air crash investigations, as I do, as that's going to be Steve Lovin that gets the free pass after escaping all of that shenanigans.
How about that?
Admiral Cloudberg on Reddit posts weekly articles. Fantastic. You don't have to just watch those TV shows and stuff.
I haven't watched an episode of Air Crash Investigation in years. I should get back into that. I should find more of those.
Yeah, not bad. But when you then go, it's interesting watching one of those episodes and then reading one of Mr. Cloudberg's articles, because he goes into a lot more detail a lot of the time, which is always fun. You learn new things.
I mean, I love a documentary about air crashes that's called Airplane. It's pretty realistic. I'm a big fan of that.
What was that recent documentary that starred? Oh wow, it was called Plane. It was amazing.
Denzel Washington.
No. It was Gerard Butler, that's who it was. To be fair, they spend about the first 15 minutes on the plane, and then after that, it's not your typical Gerard Butler movie.
I saw Sully with Tom Hanks.
That's a
it
good
wasn't
one.
it wasn't as good as Norm Macdonald's Sully Sullenberger airport pilot, but it was decent.
I thought you were about to say it wasn't as good as Flight, which is
Is that Denzel Washington?
that is Denzel Washington. Yes, you got me thinking about it. Yes. Which is the one where he flies the plane upside down. Actually, something based somewhat on reality, if you want to know, Joey. There was a unfortunate crash 25-something odd years ago where the pilots tried to save the plane for a little bit by flying it upside down.
Did it work?
Unfortunately not. But those pilots were doomed, unfortunately, as soon as they took off, I think is the way that several have written the story.
It's been a very, very slow and caution-filled race when we get to the air crash portion of the broadcast. But
we did see an air crash earlier.
We did with Steve Loving. He did get flung into the air there. But the Norm Macdonald, I wish Sully Sullenberger airport pilot got turned into a full movie. That would have been great. And that's the first time we've finally got a Norm Macdonald reference here in the PRL NASCAR Truck Series. It's been 3 seasons now, and it's finally here.
It's lacking, Joey.
Yeah, I mean, these cautions have been long enough. I could do the whole moth joke before these cautions were over.
Yeah, that is the thing that I'm a little bit surprised by, is how many laps we seem to actually need to complete these cautions, because I feel like we could have gone racing, if not the previous lap, even the lap before that. But finally, I think we're about to form up too wide and get ready for what will be probably, a 9-ish minute less, well, probably closer to an 8-minute blast to the very end. And with lap times hovering at just over 30 seconds, it means, 16 laps if we go green to the end, knocking on all of the wood that I can find around me.
Unlike the podiatrist's office in the Norm Macdonald moth joke, the lights are not on. We are ready to go again. 9 minutes to go. Could we finally have our first green flag run of the race here? I think Alan Dice is probably going to be pretty happy if we don't, because his restarts have been absolutely masterful. I think he's happy if we continue to run like this, because if he continues to get those great restarts, there's almost nothing anyone else can do.
He hasn't pitted yet, Joey. So is he good to the end? Is he not good to the end? I'm nervous. I don't know about you.
I think he's probably good to the end with the amount of cautions we've had, but if we do go green to the end, it is possible, it is theoretical, and it could happen. But we got 3 different strategies here. We'll see which one pays off here. The iRacing Sedan Pace Car will pull off for the 5th or 6th time today, and we will get ready to go green here one more time. Alan Dice, a winner last season on an intermediate track, fought for the championship with our eventual champion, Reese Bogue, came into this season as one of the championship favorites, and this would certainly make him one of the championship favorites if he can pick up a win here tonight. We're green again at Texas. It's a clean restart for the most part. There's some damaged trucks in the back just trying to recover, but we are green again with Alan Dice getting another great jump, but here comes Kevin McGarvey trying to make the outside work.
The best of the fresher tires is Dallas Sullivan in 7th, but the freshest tires goes all the way back to Matthew Karakoff in 14th. How long is it going to take for them to charge their way forward? They're going to juke it out at the front. Brett Karakoff almost chopped himself off of the nose of Patrick Cowgill. Somehow they all scramble on through, side by side for a moment for the lead. McGarvey has an overlap with Dice.
Looking a little bit like a super speedway race here with some bump drafting. Kevin McGarvey trying to hold it on the inside, but Alan Dice ends up unfamiliarly on the outside. Still manages to build the momentum up, though. McGarvey's trying to hold Ford down on the bottom, but Dice is able to clear him, and Dice is able to get back to the bottom into 3.
Just worried about a couple of them maybe going below the apron, which would then hug them around, but Palumbo able to grab second, single file between the top 3. 7 minutes now left to go. We've had a couple of laps under our belt where they've already fought side by side. Feeling optimistic about the fight to the end, but is that what the leaders want? Do they want to see another caution?
Look at Patrick Cowgill on the outside off of turn 2, gets to the outside of Brett Karakoff. Remember what I said, his one goal this season is finally getting that first PRL win, and he is showing the aggression of a winner. Still to the outside of Brett Karakoff through 3 and 4, desperately trying to make that outside work, and he is playing with that wheel. He is wringing the neck of that truck.
It's not an easy ride, that's for sure. These trucks are moving around underneath them. And you can see a little bit sideways at times as well for some. Behind him, almost 3 abreast as they funnel off of the corner. It's intense at the very front of the lap, start to tick on by.
Look at 6th and 7th. Dallas Sullivan and Kevin Jobin both have fresh tires here. They've got a wall of trucks in front of them they need to break through, though. It's not going to be easy passing here. Dallas Sullivan finds himself behind Patrick Cowgill. He's trying to find an opening. Do I go to the inside? Do I go to the outside? He's eventually going to be forced to find the outside here.
Palumbo slides up the track with Dice. They're taking the most of the lines that they're able to run, but as Sullivan and company start to slide their way on forward, those opportunities to run from the widest line on entry to the widest line on exit are going to start to disappear. They got traffic to deal with once again. Let's not forget that's where the previous caution ended up cycling on through.
Oh, and it's contact again through the quad oval. They get away with it this time, but Karakov and Kevin McGarvey come together trying to give, I think, Steve Loving as much room as humanly possible and running into each other in the process.
Stay green though for the moment. That's going to be surely another caution.
Yep. Kevin Jobin, Curtis Norman goes for a huge spin late. I think we will get back to green for a one-lap shootout if this caution is quick. But we got a parking lot in the back straight again.
Yeah, it's suboptimal, to quote Lewis McLeod, but 5 minutes left on the clock. These are crucial laps for those 5 leaders at the front who are still yet to come down pit lane and now have got the likes of Dallas Sullivan getting ready to storm towards them on the restart.
Load up to see what happened there. Kevin Jobin was definitely involved, unfortunately. He was having a fantastic run, a debuting driver this season out of Quebec in that green and black and white entry. See what happened off of turn 2 here. That's Dallas Sullivan who's outside. I don't think you were clear there, Kevin, but I don't know if he got any help either.
I feel like they got hooked a bit early and then, Curtis Norman completely after the fact. Let's ride from up above and just see how close they're pushing each other, working through the corner. Was there some air coming into effect there? You could see the bumper cars played there for McGarvey as he actually got the left front up and into the air for a moment, three-wheeling through the corner. On corner exit, though, this is where it all funnels off. Ooh, 54 trying to go for a gap that I don't think was there.
That's a shame because both of those drivers had fresh tires on. They were both looking to move their way forward, and they end up tripping over each other. And once again, poor old Curtis Norman, absolutely nothing to do with that incident, and ends up in the wall himself here. But I'm doing the math in my head now. Will we get to the start-finish line to get one lap of green flag running, or will the caution end this whole thing? I think we will get around. I'm doing the count back right now. I think we will get a one-lap shootout, but you can never be sure.
Yeah, I'm not doing the math. If you want to stick your neck out, you can, but I'm going to wait and see. I'm too scared. I'm sitting on the fence.
And I really hope we don't get a delayed caution. So if there's somebody hanging back, that might delay it even further here. But theoretically, if the rules of iRacing that I have seen in the official series this week are anything to go by, we should get 2 to go this time around. And if our caution laps are less than 1 minute and 20 or so, we should get a green flag restart here. But we're going to be able to do the math on the line here when we get 2 to go.
So Dice, Palumbo, Karakov, Cowgill, then have Dallas Sullivan on row 3. 1 lap is probably not enough. 2 laps would be pushing it. I think if it's 3 laps, Sullivan would be in a great spot. But the clock is definitely not on his side, unless by some miracle we're going to funnel up 2 by 2 and get ready to launch ourselves into a 2-lap shootout, I would guess. Don't think we're going to get that lucky.
Yeah, caution laps are 1 minute 35 around here, so I do not believe we're going to get 1 lap to go here, because we're going to cross the line with only about 35 seconds to go, and the timer will hit that 40-minute limit under caution, I believe. Now, I'm always going to open up the door for an opportunity to have a green flag restart, because sometimes there are those discrepancies with a race under caution at the end like this when it is timed. But it's looking very realistic mathematically that we will end under caution, and Alan Dice is going to get his 2nd win in the Truck Series.
And it was one where maybe Joey, you called this before we even went live, that you expected it to be a bit more dramatic and stop and start, and so maybe Alan Dice had run some rough numbers and decided that it was going to be enough. There is a lot of smoke. Is someone blowing an engine and it just trying to coast around?
I think that's Kevin Jobin just trying to make it to the finish.
Gotcha. Okay.
He's really hoping we don't go green here, because if we go green, he's out of luck. But if we finish under caution, even with that smoke machine, he's still going to get a top 11.
I'm trying... how many laps under caution will we have done by the time we finish this next lap? Because, yes, this is going to be the final lap of the race, and we'll finish under caution.
White flag not in the hands of the starter here. We are going to have to wait, though. They're going to stack up 2 by 2 here. A green flag lap is 30 seconds long. So the question is, will iRacing take this lap as a green flag lap, or will it take it as a caution lap? We're only going to find out once the clock hits 0. Will the checkered flag be in the air, or will the white flag be in the air?
That's a good point, actually. Surely we've been in this position before, Joey.
We have been, and it's seemingly it always changes.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay, that's wonderful. If we are going green for a lap, anyone who is behind poor Kevin Jobin, you better hope he gets out of the way. That's all I'll say.
Yeah, I think everybody behind him likely knows that we're getting the checkered flag here, but the clock is going to strike 0 here. And it is the final lap. The checkered flag is in the air for Alan Dice. We will not go for a 1-lap restart. Kevin Jobin says thank you very much. And look who's back there in 10th place. 1 spot ahead of the exploding Kevin Jobin and the exploding Matt Karakoff, for that matter. Colton Easterday, famous for getting involved in incidents that weren't his fault. His bad luck streak has been absolutely insane. He's finally going to finish in the top 10 in a race where seemingly everybody else crashed. Colton Easterday finally survives, and they are wrecking under caution.
That's
I have no idea what happened there. Yeah, I think his engine finally blew. I think that's what happened there. Karakoff's engine blows. Alan Dice gets about 50 feet of a restart here, and he takes the checkered flag. Alan Dice is victorious.
Wait, we're racing.
Or is he? We are we?
I have no idea. I have never been this confused on RaceSpotTV, and I have done 600 plus broadcasts.
We are racing.
In the last 3 years.
The white flag was put up again, so we are racing for the win here. Hayden Palumbo to the outside of Alan Dice could steal this win in the dying moments. To the outside of Alan Dice, through 3 and 4 for the final time. Can he get a run? He's trying to go for the switchback through the quad oval, but it's not going to happen. To the line, Alan Dice gets 1 extra lap, but he's going to get it done anyway. In a confusing turn of events, engines blowing, an extra lap on the board, but Alan Dice gets it done anyway.
That was the most confused I have ever been, and it did look as though the drivers were confused as well, coming to the quote-unquote restart, because I don't think as many went full throttle as some were expecting. Colton Easterday grabbed 8 as a result of all of that.
I'm really hoping that there's not going to be any penalties served, because Matt Karakoff's engine exploded before the restart, and a lot of people would have passed him under caution because of that, because we did end up going for another racing lap. So, race control might have a lot of work to do after this one.
I think we've got a lot of work to do to try and figure out what went on.
We do as well, and I do have to correct myself. Kevin Jobin was not actually one of the drivers who was exploding. It was only Matt Karakoff's whose engine was in really bad shape. Kevin Jobin actually did bring it to the finish, and I believe finished just outside of the top 10 at the end of it all with his damage. But what we do know for sure, the rest of the field, who knows at this point, but Alan Dice took the lead from our pole sitter early and dominantly wins at Texas Motor Speedway to get his 2nd win in the PRL NASCAR Truck Series. Hayden Palumbo making his debut, 1 race late, finishes 2nd, comes home just short, and Brett Karakoff proves he's not just a road course ringer, he finishes off the top 3. Patrick Cowgill just misses out on 4th place ahead of his teammate Kevin McGarvey. Pierre-Luc Ryu, great finish for him in P6. Stacey Hunter in his home race gets a top 7 out of it, and Colton Easterday finally gets a top 10 for his efforts in 8th place. Garrett Austin for Regan Bogue comes back to 9th, and Kevin Jobin, his engine did not explode after all. He finishes in the last spot in the top 10. Dallas Sullivan took a risk to pit, did not pay off for him. He's outside of the top 10 ahead of Zachary Smith. Traver, Brendel, Panzarella, Geyer, Goff, Saint-Germain, Brodeur, and Goff round out the top 20. Robert Goff, the second of the 2 Goffs. Then Austin Hunter in his home race did not have the best luck in 21st. Amasi, Norman, Pruitt, Starling, Loving, and Schmidt rounded out the lead lappers. CM Pennington was a lap down. Matthew Karikoff blew an engine coming to the restart, finishes 1 lap down. Oral Baron Hilton, another home driver in Texas, finishes 2 laps down. And the used truck lot of trucks with heavy damage consists of Paul Crumry, Jeremy Bailey, our pole sitter Chris Justice, Oral Brendan Chatley, and Kyle Strykars rounds out the field of 35 trucks in the field tonight. Absolute insanity here in the PRL NASCAR Truck Series, but a guy who had a pretty calm day was our race winner, Mr. Alan Dice. All the calamities seemed to happen behind you. As soon as you took the lead, seemed like it was easy goings for you.
Yeah, you say that, but that white flag shootout is nerve-wracking.
Yeah, that was nerve-wracking for us in the booth as well, because we didn't know what was happening. Did you have any idea what was happening? Were you expecting the checkered flag when we came to the white flag there?
Man, I was praying, but I was watching the time, and once they said 1 to go, I knew we were coming back to the white flag. Those one-lap shootouts are so tough. You don't get the restart just right, you lose a run, and I almost missed third. I was a little slow getting to it, and then kind of had to block going on the backstretch and then take the low entry into 3 and really get that run off. It was close, for sure.
We're in the oval run of the season now. We got the road course out of the way. You were one of our championship contenders last season. Are we going to keep it up for 8 more weeks?
I hope so. This is a really good first oval, obviously, for me. Not traditionally fantastic at Texas. Been practicing a little bit, but yeah, I'm not great at road course racing, so last week was okay. I was happy enough with it.
Well, congrats on your second win in the PRL, Alan, and we'll see you next week at Gateway.
All right, man. Thank you.
Alan Dice victorious for the second time, and second place for the first time. It's Hayden Palumbo. First question, first order of business here, Hayden, is where were you in week 1? Hayden Palumbo, do you have a copy? Technical difficulties there with Hayden Palumbo. We'll try and get him in a moment here, see if we can sort out his mic issues. But for the moment, I think we'll get to talk to Brett Karikoff here. Actually, I'm going to try Hayden Palumbo one more time. Hayden Palumbo, do you have a copy? All right, unfortunately, we're not going to be able to hear from Hayden Palumbo until he works that out, but hopefully next week we'll get to hear from him. But we do have Brett Karikoff here. We will get to hear from him. Last week's winner at COTA, top 3 in the oval now at Texas. How sad are you going to be when we leave Texas next week?
Yeah, I think I want to stay in the state for a little longer.
So talk us through that last restart. We talked to Alan about the confusion, whether we were taking the white flag or the checkered flag. What was it like from the perspective of you down there in the basement? We've lost sound from you, Brett.
With sorry about that. With the 1 lap to go, when they gave us the 1 to go, it didn't give us the white flag. So I knew we were going to have a 1 lap shootout, and I kind of just wanted to stay alive. The race ended up kind of being a mess, and if I could come home third, I was going to be happy.
That's certainly going to help the team at Regenboog Motorsports. Congrats on another top 3 here at Texas, and we will see you a little bit further north next week.
Yeah, I really appreciate y'all. Thank you.
Brett Karikoff, the winner of the Basement Buddies battle once more, and we will get to talk to one more driver, because Mr. Patrick Cowgill is here again. I promise I won't call you Pat this week in 4th place. That was a crazy restart, and it was 1,000th of a second between you and Karikoff at the line. How far forward were you leaning in your chair?
Pretty sure pretty far. That was so close. I was trying so hard to get past him.
So we talked a lot today. We know your goal for this season is finally getting that first win on the board. It was pretty competitive here tonight, but where do you think your best chance is in the next 8 weeks?
My best chance is definitely Darlington. I'm actually surprised that I've got 2 top 5s in the first 2 races of the season. So far this season's going pretty good.
Has been indeed. Could this be the Patrick Cowgill Championship? We'll have to wait and see, but congrats on a top 4 here, and we'll see you in Gateway next week.
Thanks, guys.
Good old Patrick Cowgill, driver of the number 31. That's going to round out our truck drivers here from Texas, because next week we do finally leave Texas, much to the behest of Brett Karikoff. We travel a little bit north to Madison, Illinois, just outside of St. Louis, for Worldwide Technology Raceway at Gateway. Very different from Texas, one of the most unique ovals in the world. Who knows what's going to happen at Gateway? Something crazy always happens.
It's also another IndyCar track, so I'm looking forward to it. Very different at either end. It's a track where you need to use the brakes. It's not a suggestion, it's a requirement.
It's a little bit like an egg, but a very, very misshapen egg, and we will go to the egg-shaped track next week. Worldwide Technology Raceway at Gateway for the PRL NASCAR Truck Series. But don't fret, because we're not done racing here tonight on Wednesday night. The PRL NASCAR Xfinity Series awaits, and it awaits us at Richmond Raceway. We are traveling a little bit north, but we're still in the south for the PRL NASCAR Xfinity Series, live from the virtual Richmond Raceway here at night. So how about that for a night race here at Richmond? Again, the championship standings are pretty similar to what they were last week, but we'll take a look at your calendar for the next 8 weeks, because it is not identical to the Truck Series calendar. We've got our first little split here, but look, next week, we're not going to Gateway for Xfinity, we're going to Kentucky, then we'll sync up a little bit with Martinsville, Talladega, Dover, Kansas, Darlington. We eventually hit Texas in week 9, and then it's a season finale at Charlotte Motor Speedway at another intermediate, but a very diverse track here, diverse schedule here again, Arjuda. Short tracks, intermediates, no more road courses though. That's out of the way.
I'm disappointed. Especially this Xfinity car, it is a treat to drive on the road courses, but it's back to, I guess, the bread and butter for these drivers moving on forward. Richmond, one that eNASCAR proved always is fires up the tempers just that little bit more, and so I'm expecting plenty more drama. We've already seen plenty of the drama with the Truck Series. Expect the Xfinity drivers to bring a little bit more of that.
Time for some high drama, as Derek Daly would say, but there was not much drama in the Xfinity Series race last week. It was the tire wizard Abner Acosta who seemingly mastered COTA, ran away in the Xfinity Series. Didn't have the same luck in the Cup Series. He actually got into an early instant and let his teammate Trent Dinkel win that one. But in the Xfinity Series, it was him over his two Precision Racing Esports teammates, White and Diaz. Richard Regan Jr. will be here with us for the full season this season, as will Bradley Holly. Cervantes has moved over to a new team at Regan Bogue Motorsports. He's 6th after his 6th place finish last week. It was Knight, Zemke, Sink, and Evans who rounded out the top 10 in a very, very long and tiring race there at COTA. But in the Teams Championship, it's a little bit closer once again. There are only 9 teams to talk about this season. Unfortunately, we've not filled out 10-team graphic here. But Precision Racing Esports with the number 111, 1-2-3 at COTA. No surprise, they are at the top of the Teams Championship. But Regan Bogue Motorsports, now that they have strength in numbers with 3 drivers, we're going to have a Teams Championship battle in the Xfinity Series as well.
Yeah, I like these sort of battles as well, where you're going to have maybe 4 or 5 teams involved. The strength in numbers is going to be important to back each other up, as well as working together. We've got a slightly smaller field here than I think some expected. Richmond may be one that drivers enjoy a bit less than the Circuit of the Americas. Imagine that.
I don't think that's going to be possible. I think there might be a few drivers who dislike Richmond a little bit, but it's a very fun racetrack. And we are ready to go qualifying here in a matter of moments here when we load in. It will be a day race, actually. It will not be a night race. The session changed just a little bit, and that's going to make things even more interesting. We know day races at Richmond, they tend to eat up those tires. 101 degrees Fahrenheit on the track. This is going to be a good race for the tire wizard again, I think.
I think so. It sets itself up nicely for him. There you get a look at the quote-unquote main straightaway. It's not much of a straight, if we're being totally honest. Curves all the way to the left and then back into the braking zone. This is definitely one of those tracks where we're going to expect the drivers to have to be on their toes, using both pedals to get the most out of the qualifying lap.
Here's Colton Easterday in the number 60. Terry Radford wanted the 60, but Colton Lane had already occupied it. It's my number as well, but I'm not going to be joining this series anytime soon. So Colton Lane, you can have the number 60. He's going to do it proud here. P3 for the moment in qualifying. Backs it off. His run is over. Here's Charles Sumner, the organizer of this series, getting it all sorts of out of shape across the line and getting it into the wall into turn 1.
And that's probably going to be his second lap invalidated, and so while he does put himself up and into 4th position, don't expect it to necessarily get any better than that.
Jeff Evans currently sitting on pole. He's got a pretty good short track resume himself. He won at Iowa a couple of seasons ago in the Truck Series, and currently looking pretty strong here at Richmond. Here's Daniel Knight in the number 17, setting up his qualifying run, running high through turns 3 and 4. And Daniel Knight's on the clock.
But here he goes towards turn number 1, down through the banking, just missing the yellow line slightly on the apex of the corner, but decent pickup on power down as Mike Knight slides into third with the top 3 split by just 0.05 of a second. Knight, though, to the line.
As we stack up with Jeff Evans, he stacks up on pole. A 22.4 for Daniel Knight decimates the time from Jeff Evans. Still a lot of heavy hitters to come, though. We haven't seen any of the Precision Racing Esports drivers out on track. We do have a driver making his Xfinity Series debut, though, Corey Precker, who we're so used to seeing on Sunday nights in the Cup Series, seeing him on Thursday nights in the IRO4 Series. He's here with us on Wednesday nights in the Xfinity Series now, and he puts it in the top 10.
Now Reese-Bogue to the line with a 22.6 as Thomas Sink slides his way up to the outside of the front row. Guess who's getting ready to roll? They've been waiting a while, but the Precision Racing Esports cars are finding their way out onto track.
And Richard Regan Jr. as well, who we know is going to be strong in qualifying here. But here is Abner Acosta, your defending winner, the tire wizard himself. Always great across the long run. Very, very fast in terms of qualifying pace as well. It's not just long runs for Abner Acosta. This guy has 26 poles on Wednesday nights, second only to Mr. Bradley Holly, who sits fourth in qualifying right now. But Acosta still running.
That was Richard Regan Jr. Yeah.
Let's see Acosta's first lap here. It does tend to be the first lap that has the speed. Off of turn 4 this time. Can Abner put it up on pole? Can he make it number 27? Oh. Yes, he can. 22.3.
And so that's maybe why we saw Richard Regan Jr. back down to pit lane, deciding that it was better for him to return and have another crack at the cherry effectively. You'll get the second attempt started now. We watch as Danny Cervantes dives his way through the final couple of corners.
Not a Whataback driver anymore. Moved over to Regan-Bogue Motorsports to give them a third driver. He's going to cross the line and put himself right in the mix with some of his Whataback teammates. There is the aforementioned Richard Regan Jr. He's since filled up the back wall there. I think there's some Precision Racing League Championship memorabilia back there. It's only going to be good enough for P2 for Richard, though.
Only good enough for P2. What more does he need to impress you?
I mean, he's gonna be pretty disappointed with that as well. He doesn't want to lose to Abner.
Fair. It is only 300s, I guess, off the pace. Let's see what the third Precision Racing Esports car will do as the pink of Elliott White, the number 27, runs to the line.
Very disappointing lap for him. That's going to put him all the way basically down to the bottom of the sheets. That's not even going to count. I think he hit the wall in that lap. So lap 2 is going to matter for Elliott White, and it's not. He doesn't have enough time. Second place in the championship, last season's champion, runs out of time on the clock. He's going to have to start from the back.
Even the best can be beaten by a track like Richmond. The benefit will be, of course, though, with 21 cars in the field, if we still do see a decent level of chaos and carnage here, Joey, don't be shocked if White's able to carve his way on forward.
It is the tire wizard up front. Last season's champion, Abner Acosta, starts from pole once again. Or last race's winner, rather, starts from pole. Richard Regan Jr. starts to his outside for Regan-Bogue Motorsports, and it's Daniel Knight and Thomas Sink on row number 2. Jeff Evans, good qualifying from him in a new paint scheme for Whataback. Starts alongside another newly paint-schemed car in Bradley Holly. Mike Knight starts 7th alongside Danny Cervantes, and it's Colton Lane repping the 60 on row number 5 with Charles Sumner. Last season's truck champion Reese-Bogue starts 11th alongside Adam Zemke, and unlucky 13th went to Mr. Matt Gagnon, who is looking very, very regal there alongside Corey Precker. Terry Radford going to be disappointed, I think, with a 15th place qualifying alongside Jim Westerfield, and Jacob Emery, hoping that Coda is a memory, starts 17th alongside Nicholas Hunter. 19th went to Kerry Graves, who was the last driver to actually set a qualifying lap time. Elliott White did not get a lap in qualifying, so he has quite the job to do here today. And Mark Kalin disallowed from qualifying for being a little bit naughty last week in Coda. He punted Matt Gagnon down at turn 12, and he gets to start at the back of the field for his sins. So look at this for an array of Zoomers. I think only one of them is a Zoomer, and he's gone now that we've moved Colton Easterday. But you see Richard Regan Jr.'s there in VR. Bradley Holly's the one who's sitting very low. Terry Radford, I almost didn't recognize him because he was wearing the glasses. He looks smarter than usual. I think Mark Kalin down there in the bottom has gotten a haircut. It's It's a party out here.
Mark Kalin, just before we went to the webcams, did wave to us, by the way. We just missed that. He's getting ready to go as the field shrieks their way out onto the formation laps.
No home drivers in the field, unfortunately. I don't believe there's a single driver from Virginia in this field, so it's going to be anybody's game. Who's going to make Richmond their home? I'm a big fan of this front row here. We know Abner and Richard are two very big rivals here. There's 2 pace laps around here, so we do get to sit and wait for a little while longer. And I'm looking forward to seeing those two battle it out up front.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Question will be, especially starting up on that outside, how quickly does Regan Jr. want to slide in? How capable will he be able to do so? Because Daniel Knight's going to be right there ready to pounce. The benefit that they'll have as well here with Richmond being so short is they get 2 warm-up out laps effectively to just get themselves into the zone and spot maybe where their pit stall is. Definitely something you want to have figured out before we head into the first cycle of pit stops.
And you see who's all the way in the back of your screen there? That is Elliott White in 20th place on the outside. Separated from his championship rival last season and his teammate and championship rival this season, Abner Acosta, by 19 positions. But it is Richmond. Things do tend to go crazy at the short tracks. We could very well have another crazy night here tonight. But after the craziness of Texas, I think we're all hoping for a little bit more sanity here at Richmond tonight, and it is sane because it's very logical and obvious to have Abner Acosta on pole at a short track, and he will lead the field to green here at Richmond. It's our first oval of the season in Xfinity, and we're green for round number 2. Abner Acosta leads us into turn 1, but Regan's trying to stick with him around the outside.
Hard fought there. Regan Jr. has a gap to be able to slot into, and he'll take full advantage. Thomas Sink and Daniel Knight, they're still fighting and squabbling for 3rd and 4th position. Side by side behind is now 1st and 2nd try to build a bit of an advantage.
Great exit off of 4 for Richard Regan Jr. Is he going to be able to peek to the inside of Acosta? No, he's not, but he peeks to the outside, trying to make things work as Terry Radford goes for a spin into turn 1. Somebody else in the wall on the outside as well. I think Jacob Emery was involved as well. Terry Radford makes it 1 lap before getting into trouble, and Jacob Emery involved as well.
Terry Radford's going to need some new Goodyear tires.
He is. He's going to need some damage repaired, I think, as well, because... well, Jacob Emery's going to need more damage repaired because that was a huge hit into the wall. And what I'm concerned about is what's going on with Elliott White. But first and foremost, Abner Acosta's got to be concerned because here comes Richard Regan Jr. to the inside through 3 and 4. Abner Acosta might be the tire wizard, but Regan's got the short run speed, and he takes the lead. Beautifully
set up as well there by Richard Regan Jr. That was a move several corners in the making, not something you just arrive on the scene and do. And now it's going to be about just looking on the long run and hoping that his tires don't burn up so much. There's Bradley Hawley in the 184. To the inside of Thomas Sink. You can see the margin up front starting to build. Already 3rd, 1.3 seconds separated from the leader.
Bradley Hawley coming off his first winless season ever on Wednesday nights last season. Really needs to make this a comeback season. But first and foremost, let's see what happened to Terry Radford here. Will happen into turn 1. Jacob Emery behind him gets involved as well, but look at that bright orange car on the inside. Oh, he gets hit by Adam Zemke.
Yeah, not sure how that all checked up initially, to be honest.
I think it was about 7 cars ahead. Everything managed to check up, but Adam Zemke makes contact with Terry, and Jacob Emery didn't get any damage, actually. He just had to horrifically check up because of everything going on in front of him.
Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose in terms of the iRacing gods. At the very least, he doesn't have damage, I guess.
I'm very concerned about Elliott White right now, because if we go back to 21st place, he is currently running 7/10 off the pace. This is not just a driver who missed qualifying. I think this is a driver who didn't get a chance to practice Richmond this week and also didn't get a chance to qualify at all.
Maybe just trying to run as many laps as he can before the leaders catch him and he pulls it down to pit lane. But yeah, it's something definitely not right there. Richmond definitely not an easy track to just jump in and be right up to speed with either. Daniel Knight starting to close back up to Abner Acosta, by the way. Richard Regan Jr. after the short run speed that saw him blast past Acosta, starting to be reeled back in.
It's never good when your practice is the first racing laps. That's never an ideal situation. But Elliott White is slowly but surely getting back on the pace here. He's only half a second off Richard Regan Jr. on that lap, so he is learning. Good for him. Off of turn 2, they'll look at Bradley Holly to the inside of his teammate Thomas Sink. Brad is showing speed here. He's showing short run pace. And there he is to the inside of his teammate in the 48 through turn 4.
Ramping back up towards the line, though. It will be finally the opportunity for Holly to get that move executed, but still committed is Thomas Sink. The more they fight, is it the chance for Daniel Knight to maybe build up his own little bit of separation, maybe side by side and duking it out for what, almost 2 laps now.
And Brad's not going to give this one up. Jeff Evans behind him, teammate to 2 of these guys. He's kind of living this up because he can back off a little bit, he can save a little bit, and let his 2 teammates get into it. But here comes Jeff to the inside. Sink still leaving the door open. Can he clear Evans off a turn 2 this time? Yes, he can. Thomas Sink gets back in line.
Still a little bit of a look to the inside, though, and now single fouled once again. Remember, slightly longer race here, 50 minutes or so. We've already completed 10 laps. If we went green, we're looking at about 130 green flag laps. It's a furious tempo here around Richmond.
I think we've already run more green flag laps in this race than we did in the trucks.
Yeah, you're not wrong, I think.
I think maybe in about 10 laps time it'll be more accurate, but yeah, we've had quite the run here so far with only one little trip up with Zemke and Terry there. Yeah, it's been a nice change of pace here, and that's how the Xfinity series tends to go, and that's kind of by design here on Wednesday nights with the splits of the series. The truck series is meant to be sort of an introductory oval series for drivers who are trying to get their feet wet in oval racing, trying to get into the PRL for the first time, and then you move into the Xfinity series here with the names we've seen in the PRL for years and years and seasons and seasons. This is where you've got some of the hardened veterans in the PRL.
Elliott White seems to have picked up the tempo. Definitely back up to speed, doing mid-23 so far. Your leaders did a 23.4 last time by. Is there a potential that Elliott White is trying to do something on strategy, given that he did not set a lap in qualifying?
I don't think so. I think my theory might be correct here, that he just didn't get a chance to practice at all. He ended up getting in the session with like a minute left of qualifying, and his I think his practice has just been in the race. So I guess he's a quick learner.
It's not too bad then, all things considered. You can see he's only about 13 seconds behind your leader, not in real danger so far as Corey Precker and Nicholas Hunter side by side.
How about this? A battle of the 16th placers right now. Corey Precker on the outside, Hunter on the inside. That's a new paint scheme for Nicholas Hunter. I believe that's new for this season, as Corey Precker walls it himself. I'm going to need to take a closer look at that Nicholas Hunter paint scheme, because he is always doing something crazy. He's always doing something silly. He's got too much time on his hands, and he's always making something crazy there. But here is Jeff Evans, actually, a little bit further ahead. Very interestingly, not just his paint scheme, which is new for this season. He's actually giving us his camera for the first time. Finally.
Oh, is this a first time thing?
Yep.
Look at the camera, by the way. You can see at the top of the steering wheel actually lights up to kind of give him a better indication of when to shift. One thing that some drivers will find when they set up their rig and their monitors and whatnot is once they have their driving position configured the way they want, they really struggle to find the revs on the screen from the car, the in-screen dash. And so iRacing in recent builds has added various tools that do help you read the RPMs without needing to be able to see the in-car dash. Well, that's a really nice addition. Look at how he's having to counter-steer a little bit as well, working off at the corner.
He's in the pinstripe Miracle Flow paint scheme right now. A Yankee in Virginia. Don't know how that works, but bringing it down here with the pinstripes. Bradley Holly, a couple positions ahead. Another one of his teammates bringing the orange to the paint scheme this season. That's very interesting. For years, he's been running the same paint scheme with black and blue with Rosemary Custom Homes. But for this season, it's a whole new look for Bradley Holly, and maybe that's the change he needs.
Look at all that Lego behind him as well. I've got the R2-D2 Lego set that's right above his head. I've also got the Lego Discovery that's off to that right-hand side shelf. I approve of Brad Holly's background.
Yeah, I'm always more of a Lego architecture person than a Lego Star Wars person, so I think he's going to be happy that he finally has a brother in the booth.
Yeah, no, but I just enjoy the diversity. He's got plenty of different things going on there as well, as Cervantes trying to squeeze his way on the outside of Jeff Evans, and I tell you what, if he gets that one done, it will prove that you can get moves done around the outside, but through 1 and 2, not totally done and dusted. Evans, all sorts of sideways.
Leaving each other no room whatsoever. About a paper's width between the two of them. Jeff Evans just trying to recover here, flailing around. Almost takes his teammate Colton Lane with him, and here comes RaceSpot to the inside.
Still side by side for a moment, but now Evans, I think, just going to concede and say, I need to get back into a rhythm, get my tires back where they need to be, and we'll see how it all plays out. Top 2 have broken away, by the way. 2 seconds now clear of Daniel Knight.
And that's going to be very, very worrying for Daniel Knight, because the 2 drivers in the field, well, other than Elliott White, that are the best at saving tires, are Richard Regan Jr. and Abner Acosta. If they're this fast in the short run, I can only imagine what kind of advantage they're going to have on the long run.
And long runs at Richmond, again, can be long. I mean, in IndyCar, we're talking, what, 60, 70 lap fuel windows. Be honest, off the top of my head, don't know what it is for this Xfinity series, especially given that I got called up at about 2 hours' notice to commentate here, Joey. But would not be shocked if it's something similar. Again, the prediction for how many laps we're going to do, somewhere from 120 to 130 if we go green. We've been green for the last 9.5 odd minutes.
Yeah, the logical decision would be to just split this race into 2. That tends to be what happens because these Xfinity Series races do go either caution-free or they have minimal cautions very often because of the level of talent in the field and because of the smaller field size. Cautions are very, very sparse, so you do have to be a very good long-run driver, and you do have to be thinking strategy where you might not have to in the Truck Series at times.
I wonder if Abner Acosta and Richard Regan Jr. are really thinking about strategy when you're now almost, 3 seconds clear of those behind. They're running in formation, which is important. They're not juking it out. They're just letting this gap build up, and I have no doubt that towards the end, maybe we'll see a fight. Acosta, as the tire wizard, is going to have a lot more ground maybe to play with as the car running behind, running to the tempo that Regan Jr. is going to set. Maybe he'll have an advantage and can play a bit of an overcut come that fuel cycle.
Regan usually is pretty strong at these short tracks, has some short track experience of his own in the real world, running in Legends cars up there in good old Massachusetts. So he's certainly got the pedigree, and I believe he's got plenty of short track wins in the PRL, but as always, holding back Abner Acosta is a very difficult task, and he doesn't have the setups to help him because this is a fixed setup series. We'll take a look a little bit further back. Mark Kalin and Matt Gagnon have found each other again. When these two were together in Turn 12 at Coda, it didn't end very well, but let's see how they do through Turn 1 at Richmond.
Seems to be okay for the time being because they've been going back and forth for a handful of laps. Zemke and Westerfield checked up behind with margins now starting to spread through the field. Even though it is a fixed setup, you're able to make a difference as a driver, and you can see that while Elliott White is no longer the final car on track, Richard Regan Jr. and Abner Acosta now within half a corner of the first cars they'll come to lap.
That's when things are going to start getting worrying, because you saw Jeff Evans a couple of laps ago getting a little bit of a drift on. You just saw Mark Kalin there off of Turn 2 getting a little bit loose himself. If we do get a caution, I don't think it's going to be from car-to-car contact. I think it's just going to be from somebody losing it on their own.
Yeah, you even look at Richard Regan Jr., the way that the car really sits down and pivots on the corner exit, you can tell it is on the ragged edge, but at least for the time being, with what's going to now be 31 laps complete, the top two ticking away in a pretty jaw-dropping consistency.
And I think right as I said that about drivers getting into each other, I think Danny Cervantes and Thomas Sink may have tripped over each other, or maybe they just went side by side. That may have just been what happened there, but both of them holding each other up. Colton Lane gets by Thomas Sink there, splits up that battle just a little bit, but the leaders might be running away. The rest of the field is still reasonably close together, as here is Richard Regan Jr. finding his first little bit of lap traffic. That's Kerry Graves up ahead. Corey Precker is next. Elliott White has finally got his practice under his belt. He's actually been making some passes, and Richard Regan Jr. puts the first driver a lap down. Yeah,
I think Elliott White saw the rearview mirrors getting a bit filled with the leaders and said, all right, it's time to knuckle down and see what we can do. Costa slides also now past Graves. The 35 of Precker running A little bit slowly off of 1 and 2, and so another opportunity for Regan Jr. to dive his way to the inside and dispatch of yet another lapped machine. They're doing all this while being quicker than those cars trying to chase them down behind.
Corey Precker was very, very helpful for Richard Regan Jr. there, rather. Richard's not always been the biggest fan of the YS Motorsports drivers. They've tended to get into him a little bit into the Cup Series, but Corey Precker very respectful there as Elliott White takes a peek to the inside of Terry Radford. Elliott White's been a quick learner here, and he was last season's champion. He's trying to pass last season's guy who called him being a champion.
And you can see behind they've got Regan Jr. and company right up the bumper right now. How aggressive is White going to be with Radford in front? Not that aggressive. He'll let Regan Jr. slide on by. And now Elliott White, he might be practiced, but he's also now 1 lap down and has got to find a way back into contention.
See if he lets his teammate by here as well. He does, very respectful of the number 5. Terry Radford, though, not going to get out of the way as easily for Richard Regan Jr. He has every right to. He wants to stay on the lead lap, but eventually he's not going to be able to fight that for Richard as they come together. Terry Radford and Richard Regan Jr. come together. The 3 goes around, and the caution flies at Richmond. Oh, dear.
That was a little bit clumsy, if we're being totally honest. Like you say, Terry, within his rights to try and fight to stay on the leading lap, but there comes a point where you have to question how much were you going to really benefit from fighting. Not really sure what to make of that, to be honest.
Let's watch it again. Let's just let the racing do its own speaking. We ride on board with Acosta here. I mean, I think Terry left quite a bit of room there for Richard.
I was trying not to say that because I feel like I might be biased towards Terry, but I did feel like Richard maybe could have turned into the quarter.
I mean, we could be biased towards Terry for being a race spot commentator, but
yes,
if we're being honest, that just makes us more inclined to insult him when he makes mistakes.
Oh, agreed. So, yes.
So
no,
if we're saying he did nothing wrong, that means it's true.
Yeah. No. I don't know. That one was one where it goes both ways. Where I'm not Formula 1 levels of get out of the way if you're a lapped car, but I'm also not IndyCar levels where, yeah. Talking of Texas, yeah.
And we're not Ryan Newman levels either, where we're just blocking you. So we'll find an avenue in the middle. Richard Regan Jr. does beat Abner Acosta off of pit road, and Bradley Holly has a good run through pit road as well. He's going to beat Daniel Knight to 3rd place, I believe. Or what will be... No, it will still be 3rd place, but it will be 4th place, actually, because Knight got a nose ahead of him at the end of the pit lane.
Did Elliott White just basically park on the back straightaway just to filter back into place? He did.
Yep. Well, he's going to have to go to the back of the field anyway, but he got the wave around there to get back on the lead lap. Now he's going to be able to pit, and that's some galaxy brain driving from Elliott White, and now that the caution has come out, he gets a chance to actually start this race now that he's got the hang of the track, now that he's got his practice under the belt. Now the race actually starts for Elliott White.
Only took him about 20 minutes. Not too bad, I guess.
Yeah.
Still got 33. It's probably going to be closer to 31 minutes left to go by the time we go back racing. Caution laps here are about a minute or so. I think we'll get stacked up 2 wide next time by, as in the next time by the line, and then we'll go racing the time after that.
So Corey Precker and Kerry Graves were also able to take the wave around there, or they will take the wave around once we get 1 to go. Only driver 1 lap down is Terry Radford because, unfortunately, he couldn't get the wave around because he was parked backwards on the wall, and he's currently getting damage repaired as well. So he needs another caution to get the lucky dog.
Yes. But what did we say earlier? Cautions breed... How's the phrase go? Cautions breed cautions. Yeah, yes, now I remember.
They do in the truck series, in the Xfinity series. It's not very fertile ground out here.
Yes, but it's Richmond.
That is true, and we've got drivers who are ready to be aggressive here. I believe you can make it to the end on fuel now. So the question is, do you want to make it to the end on fuel? Do you want to split it into 2 16-minute halves and potentially take tires? That's going to be a bunch of questions that everybody in the field is going to be asking themselves. But we will take 1 to go here. Corey Precker and Kerry Graves will be waved around the pace car. Nope, 1 more. Oh, there they go. There they go. We've had all sorts of pace car timing issues here, but we are ready to go green, and we will in about half a mile.
still, that Texas finale is one of the most confusing things I've ever seen.
And now you understand why I was so like, are we going to get one lap to go, or are we going to end under caution?
Right, so
you can never be sure.
So the reason why it's so confusing is iRacing is pretty clear. It's not time expires and then it's one lap. It's time expires and finish the lap that you're on. Which we did not get in that trucks race, yes.
Yeah, for some reason under caution, it predicts that there's going to be a lap. And if it's an especially long lap, it'll give you one more lap. But it's all sorts of confusing. Nothing confusing here, though, because Richard Regan Jr. leads us back to green. It's a great restart for him. It's a great restart for Bradley Holly as well, who gets to the inside of Abner Acosta into turn 1.
He's going to be able to challenge, but now, knowing that if he doesn't get up to second, maybe Precision Racing Esports can run away. Will there be desperation from Holly? Not even going to be able to fight back. Acosta slides around the outside, back up to second.
It was Mike Knight down in the apron. I think he has to bring it down pit road. I think he has a penalty to serve, but he actually misses pit road that time around. The pain continues for Mike Knight, who's trying to serve a penalty, but look up there on the high side, a little bit further back. Mark Kalin trying to make it work. Daniel Knight doing the same up front on Danny Cervantes.
But we saw outside line not necessarily the strongest, at least for making moves at the start. It's when the tires start to go that sometimes you can pitch down a little bit more and take advantage. Don't worry too much about the puffs of smoke as drivers work their way down the curved pitch straightaway. Not something they're worried about necessarily. Knight tries the cutback and now does have a bit of a low overlap into 3.
Comes Daniel into turn 3. Cervantes leaving him room, running a little bit high. Stay side by side down the front straight here as Thomas Sink watches on. I think he's hoping that we get a little bit more contact and he can get some free positions out of this, but it's been some very respectful racing out of Knight and Cervantes, and it's not over. Knight's still there to the inside.
While they fight, Bradley Holly's doing a great job to just hold with Acosta and not let the top 2 scramble away. I do wonder, like you say, if the drivers aren't worried about fuel, are they going to now be a bit more worried about tires? Will Regan Jr. and Acosta just manage the tempo a little bit more? Maybe not clear away from Bradley Holly, but keep enough in reserve just to avoid having to come down pit lane and lose track position if we do get subsequent cautions.
Really single-filed out here, so I think we are seeing a lot of that tentativeness. We're seeing a lot of that conservativeness. I think there are a lot of drivers who are just, they are just trying to save right now.
As a look at the track map as we stacked ourselves up once again. Elliott White up to 17th position. It's not the last car on the lead lap, but you can see starting to lose track of those in front, at least for the time being, as behind Danny Cervantes. I do think Daniel Knight got up into the wall this time across the start-finish line.
Yeah, that wasn't just a little bit of a scrape. That was definitely a little bit of a bonk. So there might be some crunkliness on the side of that Tommy's Pub entry. I'm still waiting for that Tommy's Pub gift card.
Where is Tommy's Pub?
I don't even know. That's the problem. It's not on the car. I think it's in North Carolina. I think that's where Daniel Knight lives, but I've been waiting to see the menu on there. I want to know what Daniel Knight's Tommy's Pub serves.
Charlotte, North Carolina, I can tell you.
Oh, he's in the wall again off of 2 as well.
It's got 4.8 on Google.
Nice.
Yeah.
He's got 48 behind him.
No takeout, no delivery there, Joey, so they can't get it to you.
I'll give him a couple of extra bucks. We'll get it here.
Yeah. Might need to make the trip down, unfortunately, to America's home of racing, I guess, technically.
One day we'll get down there. Daniel Knight does manage to not hit the wall off of turn 2 this time, so he's turned over a new leaf. Does still have Thomas Sink behind him, though. Off of turn 4, still getting so close to the wall, and he gets into it again. I think Daniel Knight needs to work on his depth perception a little bit.
Can be hard to judge. It is curved, let's not forget, as that is Jacob Emery in the number 20 being hung out to dry up on the high side. He drops down from up in 12th position to now in 16th where he sits.
What is that Nicholas Hunter paint scheme? He told us last week that he was going to have a new paint scheme. Didn't load in for us, but we do have it this week, and now I'm trying to read that, but the problem is his beautiful little boardwalk font there is basically unreadable, so I can't tell what he's trying to do here.
It's not much better even on the picture that we have, so style points, I guess, but remove some for legibility.
Absolutely. So his mom is in the chat here. She's been watching all night. So if she knows,
yes.
please tell us.
Yeah, no, we always love to hear the family members. I've told this story before on RaceSpotTV, but I'll tell it again. I think one of the most awkward moments I've ever experienced, period, in life was when I was at Indianapolis for the 500 last year. I was with some of my sim racing friends, met up with another sim racing friend who had fought on track with some of the guys I was with. His parents were there, and there was an awkward moment where his mom met one of the drivers and said, "Oh, so you are this driver," and then left, and we didn't see her again for the rest of the night.
We love sim racing.
We love parents, is what we're trying to say.
We do. Also, I just got a message. This came in under caution, so Nicholas Hunter is not texting and driving right now, but in our broadcast channel, Nick Hunter says Terry is not happy at all. Understand.
Why am I not surprised?
I don't think people usually are happy when they get turned at Richmond.
It's just difficult in the opening stages here at Richmond to really hold on at the end of the day. So, as much as Terry's going to be frustrated running one lap down and now running dead last as they run as well, I have no doubt that he'll have some better luck at some point through the course of the season. And
I'm glad we didn't pull him in live like we did with Nick McLaughlin last night in the GT3 series, because I don't think he would have been as polite and Canadian as Nick was.
That was your fault, though. You decided to do that.
Well, he was very polite. That's the Nick McLaughlin way. He was. I think we looked at his stream after the.
Oh, Terry's not last anymore.
Oh, Corey Precker down pit road. Is this some strategery? Does he know that they can't make it to the end after that caution and everybody needs to make a stop?
The problem is, though, you're going to go multiple laps down as a result of pitting under green here. So if Corey Precker he only stopped for 10.1 seconds, not really sure what's been going on, but he's really put himself in a difficult situation, as that's Kerry Graves, who's now going to go one lap down.
Kerry Graves is going to actually join. No, it is one lap down. He's not going to join Corey Precker just yet, but that's going to make Kerry the lucky dog here. He's going to make Mike Knight and Terry Radford even more disappointed. But let's take a look up front again here, because we haven't talked about these guys in a couple of minutes. They're still our two leaders. They're still streaking away. A little bit less than they were on the previous restart, but it's still become the Abner and Richard show up front. Bradley Holly behind, just trying to fight for third right now. I don't even know if he has the speed to fight for the win unless we get another restart.
What type of show would the Abner and Richard show be? Would it be breakfast morning shows? Are we talking?
I mean, it would be like
primetime TV, investigative
I think it would
journalism.
It would be very argumentative. It would be like The View.
Okay.
Which means you never want to turn it on.
No. Yeah. Oh. Okay, so that means we're never going to be looking at Richard Regan Jr. or Abner Acosta again for the next 24 minutes.
I mean, Whoopi Goldberg, if Whoopi Goldberg wants to come on Race Spot and join us for a broadcast, I'm happy to have her.
I don't even know the names of most of the people on The View. I just know it's that thing that used to play when I would work from home and my TV would go from the morning news to whatever came after the morning news, and it was always
just
terrible.
People yelling at each other.
Yes,
yeah, it's just people yelling at each other.
It was turn this off as soon as possible, because I'd rather watch paid product placement.
We could do our best View impression in the booth here. We got some time to fill. We could just tell each other that we're wrong about everything, and that's basically an episode of The View.
Can you do your best paid product placement impression? Because that's always sterling content that you can't miss it. Amazing.
I've watched such little TV in the past couple of years that all my ad references are from like 10 years ago.
So the one that, of course, you'll never forget is the welcome to, or oh, you need this drug, as that was Bradley Holly and Danny Cervantes tripping over each other. Cervantes is going to be able to gather her back up and hold in front of Daniel Knight, who had been knocking at the door earlier. But yeah, you look at the Rick Ware racing cars, you just need the insert generic drug here, and then this drug, and then you know all the disclaimer stuff, and that's read as fast as possible.
Yeah. If it's COVID, Paxlovid.
And then, but you gotta read the rest of it.
I actually kind of want
may
that.
cause XYZ side effects. Yeah. Don't take if you're pregnant, which of course they say that for every drug. You never know if it's actually a problem.
I hope that next season we get a pharmaceutical sponsor, because I'm a fan of those legally required things you have to read. I'm always a fan when there's a pharmaceutical sponsored car, because they have to put the chemical composition on the car. No composition of Tommy's Pub though. Gets to the inside of Danny Cervantes though. Does Daniel Knight. It's not over yet. These two were glued side by side before that caution came out. They're going to be glued side by side again. if for but half a lap, as Thomas Sink gets into Danny Cervantes. And speaking of cautions, there it is again.
We were going so well, and then it was just Cervantes trying to find a hole to tuck back into. Unfortunately, Sink was not really willing to let him do so, and around she goes, and the caution flies for the second time here today.
Well, if there's any worry about fuel, I think that's all over, and Corey Precker's decision to come in, and also Kerry Graves' decision to come in, has not paid off whatsoever. They're going to be trapped multiple laps down. Well, let's take a look again at what happened between Cervantes and Daniel Knight here. Knight gets clear into one. Cervantes tries to come down. Bonk.
To be fair, I think that's a door that was always going to close for the 48 machine, so, I mean, I can justifiably, I think, see where Cervantes was going to be a little frustrated.
Those guys were teammates last season, or teammates for many seasons at
Drama.
Whataback. Was there contact between Acosta and Regan?
No, I don't think so. But they're coming back to pit lane, which I think shows the importance of tires and how much we typically see fall off from these cars as everybody is coming on in.
It is a pit party, truly and verily. I think Terry Radford might stay out to get the wave around. Mike Knight probably should as well, and there they are in the background, getting their wave arounds. Good for them. How beautiful is that? Everybody back on the lead lap except for Corey Precker and Kerry Graves. But here we go. It's pit time. Regan Bogue Motorsports versus Precision Racing Esports. It was Richard Regan Jr. easily winning it last time, but let's see what Abner can do here. How much do they pay that Precision Racing Esports pit crew?
Both taking all 4 tires, which is not unexpected. Loading up the car with fuel. Regan Jr. will go. Acosta with a slow stop, though.
Terrible stop.
Is going to drop down to 5th position on the race off of pit lane.
What happened to Acosta there? An extra 2 seconds in the box. I think, did he misjudge his fuel?
Potentially. Maybe was he using more fuel?
I don't think he was, but I think after the last caution, we may have been able to go to the end on fuel. So there was a little bit of wiggle room here. You didn't need to fill the tank all the way, and maybe that's what Abner did.
Interesting. Well, drama.
Daniel Knight takes over second. He actually beats Bradley Holly out of pit lane, so I think Brad was really hoping that he would be able to start on the outside of the front row there and potentially fight with Richard for the first time in a while, but he's got to get through Daniel Knight first, which may be a good thing, actually, because he'll be on the inside coming into turn 1.
I'm just trying to figure out what Acosta could have also done wrong. Yes, it could have been fuel. It's the most likely scenario, but it's also one that you'd expect Abner not to make, if we're being honest. Terry Radford jumps into the YouTube chat to vent a little bit on his own. Lack of respect, in his opinion. Richmond does tend to bring that out. Something about Martinsville as well. Short track racing. I'm not defending it, trust me, it's the furthest thing from it, but it always is a little bit more aggressive and physical than people would like.
Well, get excited, because in a couple weeks' time, we get to go to Martinsville as well,
Boy.
Tempers were flaring here. We're going to flare them even more.
Imagine what Jensen Button would say if he experienced a race at Martinsville.
We should make that happen.
We should not make that happen, because those comments may destroy the internet.
They may. I also think we should do IndyCar at Martinsville, but that'll be a question for another day.
No, what we should do is IndyCar at Bristol Dirt. Sorry, that's where I was trying to go with that. Yeah,
because we can do that now because the wings get taken off. But there's a very confusing thing. Terry Radford went for the wave around, but has not gotten waved around. He's still stuck 1 lap down.
He spent 37.8 seconds in pit lane, so I think that's why.
He waited too long. He put himself another lap down.
Yes.
Oh, dear.
Austin Hunter speculates that he was in the wrong gear. So, or maybe he had damage to fix because he didn't drop and roll initially. To be fair, not everyone was dropping and instantly rolling. Did look as though they were taking on more fuel than it took to change the tires, but whatever the case may be, Acosta's got to carve back up to the front.
Yeah, he's got some recovery to do here, but Richard Regan Jr., it's Richmond Regan Jr. for him in the second half of this race, brings us back to green. Daniel Knight on the outside, Bradley Holly trying to get aggressive early. He knows Richard Regan Jr. might be a little bit too fast of a rabbit to chase, but second place is on his plate. He gets to the inside of Daniel Knight.
Acosta trying to still hold off the challenge from Thomas Sink in through 3 and 4, and important for Acosta to be able to cycle up to 4th and grab 1 on the initial restart. Still side by side into turn 1 for 2nd spot. Daniel Knight with a bit of a lead and a margin, but Bradley Holly fighting back, and now tight on the inside, but still well alongside into turn 3.
Daniel Knight has just been so good at staying side by side with people all night. Whether he's on the inside, whether he's on the outside, he has been finding ways to fight back here. But he gets into the wall down the front straight again, and I think that's going to be the thing that hurts him the most. There goes Bradley Holly, clear into 2nd. And now it's Abner who gets the chance to have fight in the Daniel Knight show.
He wasn't clear, though, when it gives Knight the opportunity to send it back to the inside of Holly, who left a car's width, but might have enough drive off the corner to hold the spot. Already 1 second clear as Richmond Regan Jr., as he quite delightfully dubbed him. You can see a couple more side-by-side moments behind.
Mark Kalin, Reese Bogue, and Colton Lane getting into all sorts of argy-bargy. Reese Bogue doing a little bit of drifting down the back straight as he gets back in line in the 4.
They all held on to it, and that's the important thing. 15 and a bit minutes left to go. We've just ticked past lap 76 in the books. It's one of those tracks that really does, even in just a 50-minute race, wear you down. How focused are some of these drivers?
It's been a very interesting, or it will be a very interesting season for Reese Bogue here, because he won the Truck Series Championship last season very, very dominantly, was forced to move up into the Xfinity Series this season, and now it's very much been a trial by fire for him as he joins his teammate Richard Regan Jr. in this series. Richard's still racing in VR, and the background of his room is reaching Sean Campbell levels. It's gotten messier and messier with every week. There's no more giant water jugs in the background, but there's seemingly a bed back there now.
It does look as though he's maybe just done some laundry and maybe hasn't folded it just yet, but look at the posters behind him celebrating some of his successes in the sim racing world. That's always nice to see. I've got my own little wall of sim racing photos on my commentary journey, and so nice little touch there. Love it.
I think the left one was his Truck Series Championship. The right one was a
Daytona 24.
Daytona 24 win with Precision Racing Esports.
Just finished our 2nd VCO Grand Slam of the year as well. Forward to our 3rd one. You know, I had a delightful chat today, Joey, with one of our winners from Sebring, Dominic Hoffman of that Urano Esports team on the VCO Esports studio. Did you know that not only was he a former F1 esports driver, but he actually didn't compete in races because he was a 3rd driver for the Alfa Romeo esports team. He was in flight school, and that was his focus.
I mean, there's a lot of sim racing people who also cross over into the aviation side. We learned that very quickly. We were talking about aircraft investigations before.
Oh boy, we were.
RaceSpot's own Connery Maddock has their pilot certification now. It is it's a Venn diagram that's almost a circle.
Trevor Perry, who is a NASCAR streamer, he's also a pilot, commercial pilot working in aviation, has multi-engine licenses and all of those things. So it's pretty cool. I like aviation, but I don't know if I'd want to trust myself behind the controls of a plane.
You know, at St. Petersburg a couple of weeks ago, they showed Roman Grosjean flying into the airport where the Grand Prix of St. Petersburg happens.
Definitely don't think I trust him.
I would not trust that. Flying myself to the race, I'm minimizing all the variables. As Jeff Evans, bringing another variable into this ball game in the pinstriped car, gets to his inside of his teammate Thomas Sink.
Yep, still side by side as they ramp off the corner, but it should be the 48 holding on. Just want to point out as well, I don't mean anything really untoward with my comment about Roman Grosjean, but he is also the driver that crashed a Honda Civic at Laguna Seca's pit entry. So maybe he just doesn't have luck on his side.
Maybe somebody needs to do a risk analysis over there. But
just like Richard Hammond. Yeah, would you want to get in a car with him?
I don't think so.
If you had a choice of all 3 of the Top Gear hosts, or the Grand Tour hosts as they are now, Richard would definitely be the last.
Yeah, I like being alive right now, so I don't think I...
Too early.
At least I like not being horrifically maimed. Because Richard Hammond, he's still alive, but the amount of horrific maimings, it's, what, 3 now?
Yeah, I mean... Ooh. A little too much.
No more horrific maiming for Thomas Sink. He's hoping. He's already had his one run-in for the day. He doesn't want to run into his actual teammate this time in Jeff Evans. And they're gonna resolve that, I think, in a couple of moments' time. Evans is still gonna try and fight back into turn 1. But Sink has been able to use that outside as he drifts just a little bit. And he should be able to get clear off of turn 2 here, but he's not. He slides again.
Yeah, they're still just holding each other up at this point. Building a 1 and a bit second buffer up the road to Abner Acosta, who's working on trying to grab a podium spot and then trying to get back up to second, where he'll have a 2-second deficit to his teammate. In fact, that was Acosta going for the lunge into turn number 1. Daniel Knight left a room. Acosta has found it.
That was a nice little Acosta send there. Sometimes he's been criticized for just being the tire wizard, for only being good at saving his stuff and on working on the long runs. But he's proven he has the ability to be aggressive. He showed it so many times last season on some of those late race restarts that he can find the aggressive bone in his body, and he's got it. He's clear Daniel Knight.
Look at that send as well. That was emphatic. That was assertive out of that number 5 machine. Next up the road is the 184. Costa. The Precision Racing Esports drivers, again, you mentioned fixed setup competition, so it's not like they're able to tweak the car to their preference, but they found something in driving that seems to be suiting them, not just in the short, but in the long run as well. And Abner Acosta just working on the rear end. Just look at the grip that he seems to have as he gets onto the power.
Oh, a little bit of a bumper to Bradley Holly there. Doesn't turn him, but there was definitely a little bit of contact between the all-time PRL wins leader and second place.
In towards turn 1, Acosta will show his nose, but Holly still has enough momentum to run that higher groove and ramp off the corner to hold the spot. Acosta's got to watch out. If he's too aggressive looking forward, Daniel Knight will find his way to the inside.
Knight washes up just a little bit. Acosta leaves him a little bit of room there to make sure he doesn't get turned himself. But Acosta does not want this to be a three-way fight, but he's got to make an aggressive move on Bradley Holly here if he wants to make it just a clear move to second. As Daniel Knight is waiting. He's there for every bobble.
They're closing behind as well. Sink, Evans, Kalen, Lane, Bow, Company starting to track their way closer and closer. Less than 10 minutes left to run. Richard Regan Jr. runs away at the front. His teammates locked in a brawl after a pit stop mistake left him in the clutches of those behind.
I'm just wondering where Terry is on track right now. Is Richard about to lap him again?
Maybe, yes.
We could be about to have some more drama there. That could be something to watch in a couple of laps' time. They're actually about half a lap separated, so it won't be for a little bit of a while. But Bradley Holly, off of turn 4, gets in the wall, scuppers his momentum. Here comes Acosta again into 1.
All it takes is one mistake, and this time Acosta has a little bit more room to come up the track on exit and really maximize his momentum. Will lead them, but slip and sliding his way on the run into turn number 3. Acosta finally back up to second.
He's got it done. Holly slots into 3rd. He's got to hold back Daniel Knight now, and he's able to get back in line here. Now the question is, with 9 minutes to go, that is still quite a few laps. There's still 30 laps to go. Has Abner Acosta saved any tire to be able to chase down Richard Regan Jr., or has he used up all his stuff trying to pass Holly?
Does he need to have saved any tire, or is the potential that these drivers have found just that little bit better? Already look at the line, 3-4 car lengths clear, and stretching it into 1 to almost half a second to Holly, who's surely going to be now more concerned about the queue that's formed up behind.
Folly of the Holly. Daniel Knight can't get to the inside this time, but look at Mark Kalen ripping the top in that highlighter yellow and blue. Number 62 ends up on the bottom, though. I think he got a little bit loose there through 3 and 4. He was trying to rip the top, and I think he still just might through 1 and 2. He's trying something different.
He's trying whatever he can, and like you said, even though it's just 8 minutes left, plenty of laps with which they can try different things, play around and experiment with where they can maybe find an opportunity. Realistically, it's a mistake that we're looking for out of some drivers. A hole being shown, a move offered half-heartedly that allows an opportunity from behind. Already Acosta now almost 1 second clear of Holly.
And the gap's not coming down between Acosta and Regan. I think, barring another caution, Richard Regan Jr. can probably back off just a little bit and just take this win, cruise it home, but there's a lot of time between now and then. We came into this not even expecting a single caution. We kind of expected this to be another typical Xfinity race that goes green to the end. But no, we've had 2 surprising cautions, and who knows if that'll be the last of them.
Don't say that.
I'm kind of trying to manifest a better finish here.
Hashtag blame Joey. Hashtag it's all his fault. Hashtag, what's it, Joey Race Cars on Twitter?
There it is.
Yeah,
Send all the hate mail my way.
Make sure it's not towards me, please, though.
We'll consider. We'll do another 60-40 split there. A bunch of the hate mail can go to me, but Arjuna's here. He gets some of it as well.
80-20. 80-20.
Okay, I'll take that trade there. Sink, though, deep into turn 3. That's one of the few mistakes we've seen in this train. This is not just a mistake-free choo-choo here. There's been a few guys not just trying to get out of line. There's been some guys sliding it up like Thomas Sink.
Just look at the way off the corner as well, that Holly's not consistently using the same amount of track. That seems to be a sign that he's uncomfortable with how much the car is giving him feedback. Knight had a little bit of a look and an overlap through 3 and 4, but at the line, still Holly that leads. But how much longer for? Because Knight now sends it into turn number 1 and almost slides up the track to grab 3rd for his own.
Some lap traffic coming up ahead. That is Corey Precker and Kerry Graves. Both multiple laps down, but Holly and Knight come together. It's a great save from Knight. It's not over yet. Holly backs out of it. Great save. No caution's going to come out for that. But oh my goodness, we came as close as we ever have.
It stacked them up behind. Now, is that really going to set off the cork in the bottle? There's a look on board with the Star Wars Lego and the Astros colors that Brad Holly is giving us, as he's now tucked down on that low line. In front of him, Thomas Sink trying to slide his way to the low groove.
That was, I think, very sportsmanlike from Bradley Holly there. I think he knows he got into Daniel Knight there, and he backed out. He let him recover, and he slotted back in behind, but he gets into his teammate, Thomas Sink, for good measure. 2 laps for Bradley Holly, 2 different bits of contact with 2 different drivers.
Oh, and then he had to come up across the path of Kalen and Evans, who continue their fight side by side. Kalen going to be the big loser in that situation, I would think, but less than 5 to go. 5 minutes, that is, to go. These are really tough laps for these drivers. They're not giving each other any quarter.
And I think Bradley Holly has really used up those tires. I think that's why he's struggling so much, which is unfortunate again. In previous seasons, we knew him as one of the best at tire saving, but in this Xfinity car, it has not quite gone his way. As we've got the 260s, Mark Kalen and Colton Lane side by side into one. Kalen's still desperately trying to make that high line work. We can call him Kalen the high line sponge now this season. It's not going to work him to clear his teammate Colton Lane. Slides a little bit. They're still side by side.
Is that going to be more drama in this race? Will we get a caution? At what point is it the point of no return? I think likely with 3 minutes left to go, although based on what we saw at Texas, we may still get a 1-lap shootout with all things said and done. Lap traffic maybe not going to be such a factor. Knight now has a bit of a margin back behind as Sink has to avoid getting up into the traffic.
Kerry Graves doing his best to open the door to let everybody by, but it's Richmond. It's tight. Sometimes there's just not enough room, and you're guaranteed to get checked up a little bit. Eventually, Sink clears him. Holly clears him. Evans is going to clear him, and Mark Kalen's going to come through as well. Getting into crunch time here. Richard Regan Jr. boasts a 3.7-second lead. It's not crunch time for him. All he can do is cruise to the finish, but if that caution comes out in the next 20 seconds, Richard Regan Jr., we might not want to cut to his cam. There might be some choice words muttered.
He's got his teammate 3.5 seconds behind. Precision Racing Esports have shown up with a rocket ship of a car and really made the most of it. Look at the balance that Acosta continues to show in that clean air, as meanwhile still behind, they continue to try and push as hard as they can.
Still plenty of positions. Look at Jim Westerfield in the top 10. That's the first time I think I've said that in a little while. Old Jimothy Westerfield showing some Richmond prowess here for Whataback, and he has passed our most recent Truck Series champion Reese Bogue to put it in the top 10.
Is it really Jimothy?
It's not really Jimothy, but it is in our heart.
You got me sad because I was about to say that is a wonderful name.
Maybe he can change it. You can legally change your name.
I think he might have to at this point.
I don't know how much you have to pay to do that, but to change your name to Jimothy, that might be worth it.
So Top Gun Racing charged, what was it, $1,500 to put a logo on the side of their car that lasted, what was it, 19 laps for the Indy GP or whatever it was.
Yeah.
I feel like we need a similar sort of program to get Jimothy Westerfield going.
I mean, it's basically free. You talk to Nicholas Hunter, you basically say anything in the booth, and that guy's going to do a full professional graphics set for free, so you basically say anything. It'll be willed into existence.
There we go. So,
oh, look who's that ahead. Terry's ahead of Richard Regan Jr. again.
It's got 5 laps to go, a little bit less than that, maybe? How hard is Regan Jr. really going to push this with the traffic?
He doesn't need to. He could basically back off here and run behind Terry for the rest of the race and still win, but Terry is a lap down, so he does have a reason to actually let Richard by this time. He's not fighting for a spot in the lead lap, so I don't think he will be disrespectful, but you never know, and I imagine Richard Regan Jr. is thinking right now, this could all go wrong.
Yeah, I think he's hoping that it does not go wrong, that is for sure. But also end the race likely if these cars behind started tripping over each other in the fight for the final step of the podium. But at least for the time being, it seems to have just stalled out, and with the tires in the state that they are, remember, running under the sun here at Richmond, drivers really struggling to balance the car out.
He's basically just trying to bring it to the finish, but here it is. Richard Regan Jr. to the inside of a damaged Terry Radford, and that is the move made for Mr. Richard Regan Jr. Puts Terry 2 laps down, puts Richard through his final bit of paces here. He's going to take 2 laps to go here, not quite going to be the white flag. I don't think he'll be able to put Jacob Emery 1 lap down. It'll basically be a victory lap for Richard Regan Jr. What a night it's been for Daniel Knight as well in 3rd, one of his best races in quite a while. Still got to hold off Thomas Sink, still needs to do 2 more perfect laps, but it's been quite the night for Tommy's Pub.
It's been a relatively clean race, all things considered as well. You think Richmond, you think stock cars, you expect big chaos and big drama, but Richard Regan Jr. is going to punch in 117 of the best laps possible to grab victory for Precision Racing Esports in that number 56, and a 1 and 2 that they'll be proud of.
And here we go again. Abner Acosta sits 2nd all-time with 56 wins. Richard Regan Jr. is trying to chase him back. He wants that number back, and he's going to get 1 step closer for the 55th time in the PRL. Richard Regan Jr. is victorious, or should we call him Richmond Regan Jr.? I think we shall. Comes home 3 seconds over Abner Acosta, who had a little bit of trouble in the pits. Definitely would have been more of a factor in the finish if that didn't happen. But it's just that one mistake that takes Abner Acosta out of contention of the win. Everybody else slowly bringing their way to the line. Nicholas Hunter goes for a little bit of a drift for good measure. What a race.
Interesting race as well. Tires and strategy not maybe playing a huge factor in it all, but burning it down in victory lane. It's well-earned donuts for Richard Regan Jr.
1 more win, and he equals his car number with 56 wins. So that's going to be a big order of business for Richard Regan Jr. next week at Kentucky. But Kentucky's going to be very, very competitive. We move from a short track to an intermediate. We know how strong the Precision Racing Esports drivers are there. But first and foremost, in the meantime, Richmond Regan Jr. wins at Richmond over Abner Acosta, over Daniel Knight. Then it's a what-a-back party for basically the rest of the top 10 with Sink, Holly, Evans, Kalen, Lane. Danny Cervantes brings it home in P9 after getting turned. And Jim Westerfield finishes in P10. Great top 10 for Jim, or Jimothy. Matt Gagnon brings it home 11th ahead of Reese Bogue. Carl Ramrod's duo finished 13th and 14th. And Elliott White, who seemingly got his first practice laps in at the start of the race, finishes 15th for all of his efforts. He's going to hope that this is a drop week for him. Mike Knight did manage to get back on the lead lap. He finished 16th ahead of good old Nicholas Hunter. Jacob Emery 18th. Terry Radford, controversy, in 19th. Corey Precker goes 2 laps down as well. And every single driver in the field did manage to finish this race, because Kerry Graves did bring it to the line 3 laps down. So technically 100% finish rate here. A couple of incidents with Sink and Cervantes and Regan and Radford, but other than that, 117 laps, the vast majority of them clean and green.
Yeah, and Richard Regan Jr. really enjoyed some donuts there. He took his time to savor the celebrations. This is one of those tracks that when you conquer it, Joey, you can be decidedly proud of. It is definitely one that, as we look from up above, you can just see how scrambled some of those different sections were. You had plenty of battle packs. The drivers fighting for 11th on back came across the line almost in a photo finish. So much excitement here. I can't wait to talk to the drivers.
Whilst we wait for Richmond Regan Jr., he's going to be fashionably late here. We will talk to Abner Acosta, our second place finisher here, first and foremost. Abner, first question, what happened in the pits?
I honestly wasn't paying attention, and I did not hear my guy say go, go, go at any time, so I just fell asleep pretty much. And that pretty much messed up my whole race there, but yeah.
Certainly an ouch. Do you think without that mistake you would have had the speed to take the fight to Richard for the win?
I definitely could have done a little bit. I mean, the whole race I was trying to like figure out the tires, but we were pretty even. He was definitely like, I felt like during some parts of the race I was a little faster than he was a little faster. But yeah, definitely would have been better than me starting 5th for sure.
Well, a first and second to start the season, that's still a pretty good run, and we'll see you at Kentucky next week, see if we can keep the streak up.
Alright guys, have a good night.
Tire wizard Abner Acosta brings it home in second, but we have our race winner here. New name for you, Richmond Regan Jr. That seemed like a joyride out there with Abner's mistake. What was it like behind the wheel for those last 50 laps or so green?
It wasn't bad until the last like 5 laps. I don't know what Terry's problem is, but gonna have to have a talk with him. I know he's probably mad that when I lapped him that he got turned across my nose, but I don't know why he's racing the leader that hard, and I didn't turn into the corner yet, so that's on him. But yeah, I don't really like Richmond, so I'm honestly surprised how fast I was tonight. I was just really trying to work on being disciplined with my throttle, and when I got around Abner the first time, I seen how he was backing up the corner, so I just kept backing up more and more and more. And then we kind of leveled out, and then when he would push, I'd start pushing, and yeah, it wasn't bad.
I don't know if you're aware of this, but tonight was your 55th win in the PRL. If you win at Kentucky next week, you'll tie your car number 56. Is that going to be some extra motivation?
I'll just for entertainment purposes, I'll say yes.
Yes, that's what we like to hear.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, I come into every race trying to win it. I'm glad that we're in the B car, and I'm pretty good in this car. I'm still trying to figure out the Cup car, just starting to get there a little bit, so hopefully we can start clicking off some wins over on Sundays again, too.
Well, congrats on the win. I'm going to keep calling you Richmond Regan Jr. for as long as we're here, and we will see you in Kentucky next week.
Yeah, thank you. Let me give a shout out to everyone at Regenboog Motorsports. Got to thank Reesboog and Danny Cervantes. Everyone at Dirty South Racing, especially Matt Long. He's been helping me a ton on how to save on this new tire that we have, and it's definitely starting to show. Mission 22, 22 veterans a day on average kill themselves a year, so trying to raise some awareness for that and get the veterans the help that they deserve, putting their lives on the line for this country. Multiple Sclerosis Society, Jay-Z Photography, and Neonism Paints. You need a paint, go to facebook.com/neonism. Everyone at the PRL and you guys at RaceSpot.
Always a pleasure, and always supporting the good causes. Congratulations on the win, Richard, and yeah, we'll see him next week after this victory. But we've got one more driver to talk to, and that is Mr. Daniel Knight, who we finally get to talk to in the top 3. You seem to have the craziest night of anybody. It seemed like you were side by side for a good 90% of this race.
Yeah. Just when I started to feel like I was comfortable, we'd have a caution, and I'd end up on the outside and have to do it all over again. But hey, I'm just glad to be back here on the podium. It's been a while since I've been here on PRL.
Yeah, it's been a while since we got to talk to you. Tommy's Pub supporting you on the side of the car. That's the last thing I want to hear about. Tell us all about them.
No, they're an awesome bar here in Charlotte, North Carolina. Used to be a big racing bar, and they kind of moved away from that. But the owner, Jamie Starks, and we run a Legends car and a kind of a Renegade Monte Carlo oval car here in Charlotte. So we have a lot of fun racing. He loves seeing it on the car, and this is fun. It's a good time.
Always is a pleasure. Daniel Knight, 3rd place tonight at Richmond, returns to the top 3. And that's going to round out our coverage for the night, Arjuna. Texas and Richmond, a tale of 2 very different races, but controversy and confusion across the 2 of them. And we'll keep going next week at Kentucky Speedway. Same time, same place here on RaceSpotTV, and same doubleheader with Gateway and Kentucky for the trucks and Xfinity. But this is not the only night of PRL this week. We've got a whole season of Xfinity Series coming up on Wednesday night. But if you come back tomorrow night on Thursdays, we'll have the F3 Series, the Formula 3 Series here on RaceSpotTV, which has been quite the exciting series so far this season. I did watch a little bit of that Motorsport race, and that was crazy. So we hope you'll join us for that, and we thank you for joining us here tonight for the Wednesday night doubleheader. I've been Joey Tebbin. Arjuna Kankapati's been Arjuna Kankapati. We thank you for tuning in, and until we see you next time, so long.